デンジ、お前も好きだったろ。
何のつもりだ。
Emotional damage. Emotional damage. Emotional damage.
Hello, everybody. What's up?
Emotional
Like
damage.
She had the loop stuck on. Like, had the loop button stuck on.
Oh, I wanted it to keep. I should just play that over and over again for all my intros, annoy the fuck out of everybody.
Oh yeah,
So what's up, everybody?
speaking of annoying everyone,
Yes.
Oh, it's back.
get ready for the super chats, guys. Rainy thinks she's escaped to the bunks on her own channel.
You're gonna bug on my channel too.
Rainy has a problem with bunks on Phil's channel, so I'm thinking whenever someone sends a super chat in, she should not be able to escape from the bunks, and instead.
I mean, it's not as annoying when it's not like a whole anime. I don't mind the sound. That's fine.
For a minute straight.
God damn it!
You can make that happen.
I had that, but I didn't have time to redo it because I lost all my sound effects. But I had it.
That's fine. I don't mind that. I need to have more like sound effects and clips. Like I need to be more professional and shit on my channel. So I don't mind that. I don't mind. I refuse to be bothered because you're trying to annoy me. Oh, hold on. Let me get my hat. But yeah, hey everybody, welcome to the Creative Block, episode 3. We're gonna be talking about manga stuff today. We'll just ease right into it. We'll get started in a minute.
Just manga.
Yeah,
That's it. Just
well, no, not just manga. Not just manga. So the topic we agreed on was the difference between manga and basically Eastern. I would say the difference between Eastern comics and Western comics, because when we're not just talking about manga versus American comics, it's like sort of, I think, American comics in general, but also the European market shares a lot of similarities, but also not. But manga, manhwa, and manhwa, I know it sounds really similar. That's all sort of like, they have very similar techniques. So we're just going to talk about the differences. And I have some examples. I know Jake, again, has a whole ass PowerPoint presentation.
No, I don't.
The main difference is that manga is created by Liam Gray and comics.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't know he was the inventor of manga. Wow.
And manhwa is the local taco vendor downtown over here.
Really? Is it? Let me get my hat on.
And manga is created in stark black and white, while American comics are produced in color, which is gay.
That's you summed it all up. All right, the end of show.
That's even a more precise question: is what is more gay, manga or American comics?
Nowadays, you know what? F in the chat says manga is dumb, CG rules. I've got some thoughts where I actually think CG is more leaning towards how manga does things, not like within the books, like the system or whatever, than you may expect.
Yeah,
I won't wear the sunglasses. Well, should I wear the sunglasses? I'll try, but I get really annoyed, because I can't really see anything when I have it on. Okay, there you go. Now I'm properly dressed for the show. All right. Let's see. So, hello, Hetzel. Hentai? I don't think that's what we're going to be talking about today, but if you guys want to talk about that, then sure, yeah.
What would there even be to talk? What would there even be to talk about? Hentai?
I don't know. It's just a different type of manga. I don't know. F in the chat. How dare you? How dare you? We can both flourish. I know I don't know. I'm unashamed about liking manga because it's sort of like, I don't know. I think there's a stereotype of what manga is, especially for Americans and people who grew up reading American comics. And it's sort of like, well, either you like all manga and you're a giant otaku weeb who sleeps with those like girl printed pillows and stuff, or you read superhero comics and there's no in between. It's not like I don't think I like most manga. I like stuff like a very, very specific genres, and I'm not gonna lie about what I like because I grew up with it. This is a huge part of my influence. It's part of my childhood. But I also appreciate a lot of what's made in America and what's made in Europe. And it's sort of like I like a specific a specific genre, because to me, manga, American comics, and European comics are not, they're not genres. They're just kind of cultural variations on the same medium, and within them you have fantasy, you have mystery, you have action, and those are the things that I read regardless of which country it's from. But within, it's also really cool to see those are the genres that I like of comics that I just like across the board. But within each country, because of the publishing model and the cultural differences, and a lot of it has to do with the publishing model, to be honest, there are differences in techniques. And I like seeing that. For example, manga is well known for stretching things out and stretching out the pacing and simplified, iconized drawings, which isn't so heavy when it comes to seinen manga, which is seinen is the sort of category of comics in Japan that means like comics that are aimed at adult men. Shonen, which is the most popular one, is stuff like all the most popular ones like Bleach and Naruto and Dragon Ball, and the ones that usually have like a teenage boy and there's a lot of fighting and yelling and very light on the plot. That's shonen. That's the biggest genre. That's what most people think when they think manga, but there's so much more than that. And I like seinen, which is it isn't just a genre, but it's a general category that the audience is aimed at adults, mostly adult men. But anyways, so the iconization is a little lighter on that. But because manga has a really short publishing model, it's made in black and white. They have a lot more simplified shorthands there. And I think those are some major differences that we can talk about. Okay, I don't want to take over the whole show. Keep on rambling.
Would you say the shonen is more like 90s style, how like American 90s style comics, especially like Extreme Studios Image early stuff, could be said it's light on plot, very in your face action, and very light on plot? So would you say that there's like kind of a similarity there?
I can't do this anymore. I can't see. It's so annoying. I tried. Okay, so I think some of it is, a lot of shonen is like that. I think the majority of it really is. And even stuff that's really popular, like Demon Slayer, let's just be honest, it's not like the most mind-blowing plot ever. Stuff like My Hero Academia is exceptional because the characters are actually really good. But most shonen is not like mind-blowingly complex. It's like you kind of expect what you're getting into, you have archetypes. Like you have like the shonen archetypes. Like there's always like this nemesis that becomes a friend. You have your nakama. Like One Piece is very obvious to see that. But even in My Hero Academia, you have like a nakama, which is like sort of your team, like your buddy team. And you don't see that in Western media a lot, but that's very much an Eastern thing, not just a manga thing, but in Eastern storytelling, you have like, it's not just about one hero taking on the world. You have your group of friends. So that's the thing we can talk about.
They're like raised reading that, so it's second nature to them. And for us, it's like you have to think about it and deliberately be like, I'm going to have a nemesis befriend the dude, and in my case, I'll be like, oh, I'm so excited about trying this new storytelling thing. In manga, they're like, yeah, that's so normal for us.
Yeah, for 40 years.
Big deal.
Well,
but I wonder if there's anything like that for American comics. Like what's ingrained in us that we don't even think about,
Well, like that's the thing in manga, is it knows what it is and it has all those different kind of like flavors, and it links into like that whole editorial process thing where like you actually have editors trying to like both at the same time trying to work with the creators to make their thing, but then also trying to like maintain what like a shonen manga is or a seinen manga is.
Because I know nothing about the editorial process. I have my stack of manga that I have, which is 3 books. One of them I've read fully. The Berserk I started reading, and
you have one book of Berserk.
I'm halfway.
It's like book 4. It's like book 4.
No, it's number 1. and then I started reading the second book of No Gun's Life, and see, I'm almost done. Oh no, this is actually for
nice.
A little placeholder for a thing. So this is my ingestion of that, and then I have some CG manga inspired books or styles. So like, of course, I have Fiendish. I have Battle Maiden Knuckle Palm, which is a awesome Kyung Lee book. And then, would you guys call Tiger Blue I mean, obviously influenced by old school manga stuff, and it's in black and white too, and
nice,
which is a super fun book. But obviously Western style. But that's Jose Garcia.
You know, one thing that could be like American, where we almost take it for granted, is it's like crossovers and soap opera, like multi-stories, basically like crossovers. I feel like manga doesn't really do that. America does it all the time.
Well, like Marvel and DC are just two giant crossovers all the time with the connected universe.
Yeah, it's a lot in common with pro wrestling, and manga is not at all. Manga is way more about their own individual stories, which that's kind of like one way where you could pro and con it. Be like, I prefer manga because it doesn't do the crossovers all the time or whatever.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it probably is just because I grew up with manga. I lean towards stories that are self-contained and that even if I read a lot of comics, it's just it seems like it almost waters down the core concept if you keep on keeping the story and the character going on forever and ever and keep on doing crossovers just to keep on making money. Like, come up with a new idea or a new take on the same idea and do a new issue. But that's just me. I'm not a superhero person, but I really like a lot of, like, when I moved to America, I like a lot of like IDW back when they were good and Image stuff back when they were good. And it's still American style storytelling, but for example, Miller's work, I really like it. I like Sin City. I love 300. That kind of like super like hard graphic, stylized, bloody stuff. I love that kind of shit.
That makes you question what in this discussion. What are we actually going to define as like American or Western comics? Because there are my favorite. I never read superhero stuff. Never interested in it. I have a lot of favorite series that are Western things. Preacher, Transmetropolitan, Why the Last Man, right? These are even Watchmen. These are self-contained stories that had an actual ending.
I like all those.
I know, right? Like, and like, okay, if you just want to talk about the tiny two, Marvel and DC, and criticize like them compared to. And like Marvel and DC are almost like Shonen Jump, the Shonen stuff, like the young boy stuff, and like it ended up being that's all they did, and there wasn't the rest of it. Whereas there was in the past, like with like Vertigo or whatever, like there was a wider range of stuff, and earlier on in comics there was a whole wide range of stuff, and it's like it almost died out, and I think that actually ties in with a huge cultural difference. Like that consolidation, I think, is actually a huge part of Western culture in itself compared to like Eastern culture. Like, okay, you ready? I got two central things.
You're gonna blow our mind.
Oh, it's your PowerPoint.
All right, let's go.
No, I don't have to do the PowerPoint.
No, I like your point on the Vertigo stuff, because a lot of guys that were writing for Vertigo were not coming from American comics they were coming from monthly stuff, but they came from a lot of anthology work in the UK. You had the UK invasion,
British manga.
The British invasion that with Vertigo, you have Alan Moore, who wrote Watchmen, and he's a storyteller that it's a consolidated story. It's beginning to end and stands on its own. So when they were brought over to DC for Vertigo, they were just able to do whatever the hell they wanted. You got guys like Grant Morrison, Alan Moore, Garth Ennis. These are guys that these stories are standalone. They have no interaction with the outside DC universe, and they were able to tell those stories in long form storytelling. And they were hits, super popular.
Mm-hmm. I think what you said about this cultural difference, that might be true. I forgot who it was. I wish I could remember, but it was a Brit. And sometimes it was like a Brit looking in on American comics and the differences between American comics, but also, no, not just American comics. They were talking about just culture in general and how Americans can't let things end. Like, you have to keep on doing sequels and everything. I think it's part of just our entertainment being so corporatized. I don't even know if it's a cultural difference, but it might be.
No, I think it's at the heart. I think it's at the heart of the culture.
I think it probably is, but it was really interesting. It was like, oh, you needed someone outside of the culture that really understands America to point it out, but it might be true, but it might be also incentivized by just how super corporatized everything is. But it doesn't have to be, it's not like you can only make money with sequels, but in America, it's sort of like if you have something that works, you just keep on doing sequels. And instead of, so it's like, superhero comics are equivalent of shonen. And because a bunch of like complicated history of the Comics Code Authority, but that was stupid as well because that was self-imposed. It wasn't even something that American comics had to do themselves.
It's what is a corporation? What is a corporation?
Like, apparently, it's a person.
No, exactly. No. That is again. That is another huge cultural thing, right? America is all about how the hero dominates the world, right? People went from other countries and went and dominated America. They took that whole fucking country and they're like, no, this is ours now. And like this place is us. Whereas in the East, it's all about how the individual is impacted by their world. Like it's a very collectivist culture and people are put under pressure. And like a lot of the storytelling is like their story structure is, this is the world. Here is a twist, and this is how the character reacts to it. It's usually about how someone is reacting under pressure, whereas like the Western stuff is if you were to like just focus on like Marvel and DC if you really wanted to, it's about like how do I have already decided I am righteous, and I am now going to go out and like beat up all the bad guys and tell them who's boss. You know what I mean? And like tie it back to corporations. They literally, in their legal system, defined that a fucking corporation is a person, that a corporation is an individualistic hero that must go out into the fucking world and like either defeat or sue or like buy up all of their competitors so that they are the one competitor. So like if you take like how diverse that the Western comic industry used to be, like over time, the big hero of Marvel and DC almost has like the huge corporations have like defeated and gobbled up all this like diverse competition. So it's like I am the winner, the dominator, and I'm now going to replicate myself. Like I am going to produce 1 million children in my image. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm going to father an army.
You could allude that to Batman, and Batman has Robin and Nightwing and Batgirl and all these clones of himself. I could see for your argument's sake of that. And then like a lot of Western stories, you have like Akira, which is the world changing these characters and how they react to it, in that story. But I think you can make the argument for
in the East, you genuinely have like someone who's just living their life normally, right? And they're like almost doing as they're told. Do you know what I mean? They're acting on like a presupposed order and they're going along with it. Then the world fucking changes and twists and something crazy happens, like a demon appears or like the whole world is turned upside down, and then they have to deal with it. Like it's all about how they react. Like the difference is even in the design of the characters' faces. You know how people make fun of anime and manga for having huge fucking faces, right?
Yeah.
How are you going to tell how someone is reacting the most? If you're going to insult someone, how are you going to tell how they were affected?
You put a little X on their forehead, and then make their eyes all.
No, in life, you would read their face. You would read a person's face.
I think that's a bit of there's probably more. It leans towards collectivism or in the East, because the Eastern culture definitely does put the collective above the individual, and Western culture leans towards individual. But I can think of so many examples in Western culture where the world does change the character, and a character has to rise up to that because that's the hero's journey. Look at like a story. I think a good story and their standard hero's journey is a balance between the character changing the world and the world changing a character. Because look at Star Wars, for example, and that was made by an American, albeit with Eastern influences, but that is the standard hero's journey. It's not sort of like the character is always right from the start. And even Spider-Man, he wasn't right from the start. He made a mistake. He had to learn from it. But there are certain other characters, like probably Captain America, for example, is like he's morally righteous from the beginning, but that's almost sort of an exception. But in general, maybe there's more of a definitely like a more collectivist view versus more individualist view.
Well,
but
like
I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think a lot of the differences between the mediums are really just defined by the publishing model and how much time artists have to draw things and the sort of like context within that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to go into that?
I read this book recently this week, kind of for this stream. Even it's a Junji Ito. It's like his newest book, and it's called Black Paradox, and it's so good. This is the best thing I've read in like a couple years, maybe. I think the last time I read something where I was like so blown away, it was Daredevil by Frank Miller. So that was a few years ago. So that's like those are the two best. But this one is like interesting because it's horror, so horror can give you more leeway with 3-act structure, hero's journey. Like this kind of almost isn't hero's journey really. Like you can't tell who the main character is, and you can't tell when one act ends and the other begins. And that's Junji Ito being just really weird and cool, kind of like. So that's part of the reason I enjoy it. But
yes. Oh, I remember now. It's probably a different video, but Literature Devil did a video on the difference between like Eastern and Western storytelling, and that was a really good video. And I should like find it and link it or something. But he made the point that in Eastern storytelling, the general it doesn't follow the Western model of, well, there's an inciting incident and like the main character takes action, and it's all about like you take action and do something about it of your own volition. In Eastern storytelling, it's more about a twist. It's not so much about like you need a problem. That's why slice of life works so well in manga. Like in American readers, because slice of life isn't something that culturally has been established in American or even just Western storytelling, and the creators don't know how to do it. And I think that's why all these talentless people in the mainstream who want to emulate it, and they think, well, manga does it really well, and they can make people just living their daily lives and drinking coffee work well, and it's popular. Let's do it in American comics. But first of all, you're doing it in superhero comics. That doesn't work. But second of all, you don't know how to do it, because the reason slice of life works is it's not so much about character development, but it's more about the context, and there's a twist, and you're discovering the world, right? And there's still progress, but the progress is external. So there's that difference.
A comment on those like less capable people like taking on like the manga tropes as a thing. I think there are people out there who probably don't have the eyes to see what is actually going on in manga, and they look at it and they basically take a bunch of stuff at face value, and basically they see an opportunity to rely on a bunch of crutches, and whilst but it's a dual thing. It's like I can rely on a crutch, but also that crutch is cool, right? It's like me relying on a crutch also adds a cool value to what I'm making. Like, but
there's a lot of creators, especially in America, that are like, manga's the cool thing now. Let me just do the cool thing. But they don't understand it at all, and it pisses me off because it just gives manga even worse name in the Western market, and it pisses me off so much.
Yeah.
Because, they just take the style and wear it as a skin suit, just like they're doing with everything else. Sorry.
Yeah. With this one, like I was thinking as I read it, I was like, I couldn't write this or write anything like this because I just can't wrap my head around how he does it. It's like, and usually like an American story, I could wrap my head around it.
We'll talk about why. Like why don't you what happens in it, and how is it written, and how does it unfold that you don't feel like you could write that?
Yeah, well, I was trying to think of what even is like the structure of this one, because it's not 3-act structure. So I'm like, what even is it? And I'm like, the closest I can think of is there's actually a funny I don't know if this is famous, but have you guys heard of like the paperclip video game online that kind of went viral a few years ago? And it's like a website you can go to, and you're selling paperclips. And if you sell enough, you can upgrade your factory to make more paperclips, or you can upgrade the distribution. And so you're like clicking 3 buttons, but as you go, it's getting exponential. You're making more money and you can spend more money. And the fact that exponential makes it addictive.
This is old. It's old.
And, oh yeah. Well, the paperclip game, I ended up playing it for like 8 hours one day, and I had to charge my computer while I was playing and not let it shut down because I wanted to see it. Like totally hijack my brain, and it's the exponential curve is what does it. And this book, that's like one of the main things it does do. It has an exponential curve of, and it does it with like this what do you call it, like a resource that they find in the spirit world that are these like shiny balls, and it's the story starts with one, and by the end of the story there's like a billion of them. So that's kind of the exponential, is even just these balls. So you're dealing at the beginning, you're dealing with one ball and blah blah blah. So it's like a economy almost, kind of.
It's interesting.
I haven't heard of it.
Yeah, like I
Ball economy, huh?
Yeah.
Seeing as it's Junji Ito, and you've read Junji Ito before, Rini, does that track with his other works or not? Like that exponential.
It's been a long time. Disclaimer: it's been a long time since I read his works, but I think yes. He kind of starts out normal, and things just get weirder and weirder.
Which is ramped up.
Right,
Spiral is like that. Yeah,
yeah, that's generally, and again, it's like twist after twist after twist, but it's not so much. It doesn't follow Western storytelling, and I have so many debates with like some comic artist friends that are like very just like Western storytelling. I'm like, they want me to change my characters to fit the model of what they think works, and I'm like, that's not the only way to make it work. But I don't want to seem like I'm not taking the critique, but I think there are different ways to tell a story, and as long as there is a development and there's a discovery, I think discovery is the most important thing. Like interesting characters, compelling characters, and as long as there is a discovery, whether that's character development internally or something about the world changes, that can work. You just have to make it compelling. Mm-hmm. But the way they do it in the East and the West is different. So here, this is exactly, this was the Literature Devil video, but this is exactly what he was talking about too. I'm glad you pulled it up.
It's literally every video on like story structure comparisons, but like
I've only seen like one.
So explain this to me, Jake.
Say again. Well, so this is like Eastern story structure, and the way I understand it is, you get a long introduction, like. First, you get introduction and development. Like, for me personally, this is the world being demonstrated. It is really, to me, it's like one phase. Like, the intro usually is a very quick download of, like, exposition. Like, if you have ever seen someone from, like, okay, Ethan read the first couple of pages of My Hero Academia, and, like, it's usually a fucking text wall, right? Like, it's usually like, this is the world, and in this world, this happens. Do you know what I mean? Like,
that goes for I never read it. I've seen maybe like 10 episodes of the anime, and I remember the first, intro to the first episode. It explains the world and how everybody has these mutant powers, but they call them whatever they call them, quirks or whatever. And that's just the expositional dump of we're setting up the world for you to know its boundaries.
Yeah, so you kind of get that initial introduction of like the grander scale of kind of like the fundamental rules of the universe, which you will essentially never get in a book from like Marvel or DC, because they're all in a shared universe, so they all have to live in the same fucking world and abide by the same rules. So like essentially this introduction phase is kind of like where a lot of the actual like core diversity of all of the different genres of manga can be initialized, and like you just wouldn't really get that if you have that whole Western crossover thing that you guys mentioned before of like shared universes. But then the next phase, the development phase, is like, okay, how does that introduction phase actually play out in the wider world? Like, how does that exhibit itself? It's kind of like, hi, I'm so and so. I have this job, blah blah blah, and then like the development phase is actually seeing like a day in the life of that person.
All right.
So it's like the introduction is then like, so you get that, and then that it's kind of like one big chunk. It's just demonstration of the world, and the development phase can go on for fucking ever. And then usually there is like a huge twist, like basically everything you knew is wrong. Like it's usually got to be like super fucking heavy.
Do
Like,
you guys know any examples of a twist from a manga you guys have read that would demonstrate this?
I think My Hero Academia is a good example of that exactly, but not all manga follow that, I would say. I think with like sort of establishing a world, because especially mangas that aren't set in like everyday worlds, you need to establish everything, and they tend to do that up front in generalization. I know right. Naruto has a similar setup. And if you really think about it, this is interesting because My Hero Academia is almost like the descendant of, it's like somebody called like, it's like the third generation of Shonen or something. Like the first gen was Dragon Ball, second gen was Bleach and Naruto, and I guess One Piece, and then but My Hero Academia and Demon Slayer are like this is the new generation, and they've learned from the past mistakes. But I guess in these sort of like fantasy Shonen, it's kind of common. Naruto also is established a world, and then the twist is, well, Naruto wants to become the Hokage, but he has all these fucking problems. And Bleach also was like everyday life, but then there's twists, and well, he meets Rukia, and I guess what the fuck else?
In Jujutsu Kaisen, you have like, it's a lot of the time it's okay. This can happen quite commonly. It's kids who are going to school, right? Like teenagers, and like that's probably a relatable endpoint for a lot of people because everyone's been to school. It's probably why you see it so often, because it's like instantly relatable because you've all been to school. And also it's like if the story is about how like you have order and then you kind of like react to the pressures of order, like school is very ordered. But anyway, like in Jujutsu Kaisen, it's like they realize there's that demons exist, and like you have a normal life, and then suddenly demons exist, and then a whole school of people who fight demons exist, and like now you're fucked and you have to go to that school now. Like it's that kind of twist. It's like, imagine it's the X-Men, but no one knows about the X-Men at all. It's not a thing, and someone's going about their life, and it's like, and it sucks, and they're down or something, and then something super crazy happens to them, like their power is unlocked or whatever, and then because their power got unlocked, Professor X comes to them and then says, "Hey, listen, you got to come to the academy." But then it's kind of like a world where the X-Men would be a secret thing, rather than like, we are the heroes that go out and everyone knows about us and loves us.
But I really don't think this is a manga only thing, though, because Harry Potter is an American, but it's Western, and that is a great example of a standard, like it sticks exactly to the hero's journey. Harry Potter, Star Wars, and a bunch of other, even Lord of the Rings, it sticks to hero's journey. Like you have that's what the hero's journey is. You start in the normal world, and then an inciting incident, and the main character is taken out of that and forced to go on a journey. You have the denial, and then they're forced to actually deal with the problem. So it's not, I don't think that's so much a difference between East and West.
That's kind of the difference. In the West, the twist is the inciting incident that challenges the character's already defined resolve. I am the hero has this point of view, and the twist is usually, like in Harry Potter, that's a huge twist, right? But like it's not usually that big in Western stuff, maybe. And then it's like the character almost proves if their like righteous point of view is correct or not, like over the course of the story. And then they'll have a realization later of, okay, I was kind of half wrong, half right.
The way you're saying it, it sounds like the twist is the beginning of the story, and it looks like for this, the twist is the end, I guess.
Similar, yeah. Like the twist can usually also be more akin to a cliffhanger, because like, so the way that I think most manga is like you have like a 10 or 20 page chapter in a magazine like this, and like the like in these, and there's shitloads of different stories in them, like all these anthology magazines, and so you want to get people to read the next chapter. So like the twist is almost like a cliffhanger at the end. Whereas in like the West, the twist can usually be the inciting incident, but then you'll have another twist at the end that can be the cliffhanger.
Frankly, it might just be I'm retarded, but I'm not super getting it. I think it's just
okay.
They do what Eastern and Western storytelling tends to do, the inciting incident a little differently, but the hero's journey and what works for a story structure kind of is the same no matter where you go, because that's just what resonates with humans. I think the main difference between East and West is more like having a team and that kind of stuff. Like that goes way back to Journey of the West. It's ancient Chinese novel, and like look at ancient Western works. I mean, Gilgamesh isn't really Western. I guess it is. Like to me, it is. It's the Middle East is Western to me. But it's like it's the hero going on a journey and like discovering the world, and he's the main character. He doesn't have a gang of friends. But ancient Eastern storytelling is about a team, and I think that's a core difference that you can say. Yeah,
right. Because even if you go to like Middle East, like with Rama and stuff like that, and his like group of kids that he hung out with, you know, he has this band of misfits. That he goes on, stuff like that.
What did Lit Dev say the difference was? Did he say anything? Or
oh, I wish I would have watched that.
Rainy, do you remember?
He mentioned the Nakama, like having a team versus one hero versus the world, but also like of course generalizing, but he also mentioned like the Kisho Tenketsu and the hero's journey and those two different styles. But honestly, I still didn't quite get it even when he said it, because I think in Eastern storytelling there tends to be more focus on like having a twist, and that can people accept that as story. You don't need to have this great conflict and you have to fight something, because in the West that's like if you don't fight something it's not a story, and I disagree. I don't think that's the only way to make a story work. But at the end of the day, like having an inciting incident, having a problem and solving it, that's sort of generally that's worldwide.
Go back.
Okay.
Hold on. Kelsey's in the chat and he said check out Dan Harmon's story circle. It's pretty easy to understand.
I mean, so that's the heroes. This is heroes. It's like
that's what this is.
What I think that like you guys are getting at essentially is there's a heart of storytelling, the heart of telling a story or a narrative, which is basically action, response, change of action, and it just keeps going in a chain. Like you act a certain way, there is like a twist or a realization or something, or like, and then there is like another decision in change of action, and but then like the East and West have basically two flavors of assembling different types of like action reactions, and the hero's journey is like a pretty good example of that, like the Dan Harmon story circle that Kelsey's bringing up. Like should we actually explain this or not? Like have you guys seen this before?
I'm trying to explain it for people who don't know. It's, I'm sure the chat doesn't really know everything we're talking about.
So the idea with Dan Harmon's story circle is like a simplified version of the hero's journey. You'll start with a character that's like in a place of comfort, basically a thing that is a person that is already something, like they're already doing something. They're like having a normal life. Then you'll have like the need to or desire is like usually that's the inciting incident. It can be the inciting incident that like highlights a need, and that can almost be simple as like someone bullies you at school or something, or like someone steals your car, or like your mom dies or something. Then but that like is supposed to create a desire within the character that then they go into like another unfamiliar world in order to like realize that desire. Like, okay, I wake up, I want something to eat. I have to go from my bedroom to the kitchen to get something to eat. But then, so you're in the unfamiliar situation is like the kitchen, and like
you don't know how to cook.
Exactly. You want food, but you don't know how to fucking cook. So now you've got to adapt to the situation and learn how to cook.
But you learned to cook, but then you accidentally cooked your best friend.
Right.
There you go. That's a story.
Your best friend's there.
No, but then we're only halfway through, but go on.
Super chat time.
Oh, okay. I mean, I didn't want
This
to.
is a great hail to Hostman. No, that's perfect. I would say read that, Irene.
Well, the chat there have been a few super chats, so people have made some really good comments. So if you don't mind, let me rattle them off. Hostman Socrates, thank you for 5. Otaku, loosely translated to socially awkward fanatic. I guess I don't actually know what otaku translates to. I know in Chinese it's 宅男, which means basically stay at home man. Also, Bogan Raid, hail! Hail, Bandesanas, bonk me! Let's do a bonk! Where's the bonk? There we go, yay!
It's $5, so that's 5 bonks, I guess.
Oh
there
my
you
God.
go.
Oh no! Okay,
so
if somebody sends like a $50 super chat.
Yeah, so if you send 50, that's going to be 50 bonks. If you send 100, that's 100 bonks. And Rini will have to sit through every single bonk.
I don't, because I'm in control today. Postman Socrates for 5. Thank you. What are some actually good and mature manga aside from Vagabond and Berserk? I have some pulled up because Brian Crisco mentioned. Okay. I would say Boichi's work, it's not like super great on the plot. It's like basic plot, but the artwork is amazing. This guy I was showing off on, I think, Ethan's or John's stream a while ago with like the hot women and the girl like shooting a gun, and everybody really loved that. Amazing, amazing art. He did one shonen series, Dr. Stone. That's the only like kitty thing he did. Everything else he did is like rated R, like titties everywhere. So if nothing, read it for that. There's also, let me see. What else? If you like horror, of course, Junji Ito is really good. And Vagabond, I would say Vagabond.
20th Century Boys.
Yeah, anything by Naoki Urasawa. Monster, that's also by Naoki Urasawa. Mm-hmm. He's really interesting. He doesn't do like the kitty jokey manga stuff. He has a very like sketchy but like mature style, and he tells like really compelling, almost like mystery stories, and very grounded, set in the real world. Monster is about a Japanese doctor in Japan who saves a child murderer, like a little boy who murdered somebody, and then the boy grows up to keep on murdering, and this doctor goes on the run to try and stop this murder, and he has to live with this guilt that he saved the life of his child. That's his job, but the child is a psychopath murderer. It's really it's absolutely amazing writer. As one of the few manga creators that I would say are amazing writers. And of course, also like Berserk and Vinland Saga, that's also amazing writing, but you already know about that. And also Blade of the Immortal is really good. Read that. Amazing art. It's like ancient Japan, assassin guilds fighting each other and stuff. Beautiful traditional pencil art. And did I mention Vagabond? Yeah, I think that's enough. Those are the ones I could think of off the top of my head. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that isn't the cutesy kitty stuff. There's a lot of it out there. Just you need to like, because it's not all the same. Not all manga is the same. It's not just a genre.
Monsters like as good as it gets, kind of, definitely.
Monsters is amazing.
Life-changingly good.
Amazing, yeah. Sir Nolan Lockhart for 999. 999, thank you. Rainy Demon Slayer Swordsmith Village Arc animation just recently started. I'd be interested to know if you think that animation style would have better suited the more recent Berserk series. I haven't watched any of the Demon Slayer animations, but I heard it's good. I watched like one episode, and I'm like, oh, I mean, I get why it's popular. It's pretty, and it's, it's like basic but compelling, you know what I mean? And I get why it's like it has mass appeal, but it's not, shockingly like amazing. Let's just be honest. It's like it's popular because it's pretty and it's well done. It's standard but well done.
I remember watching it and bouncing off it because I was bored.
Yeah, I haven't seen. I only saw like one episode of it. I know the general story. It's but it's well done. What
was the last super chat that you had before that?
I cleared it already.
Okay, well that was 9.
Oh shit!
You didn't get to 10 because you didn't do 10 full dollars.
Okay, FK 322 for 5. Thank you. Creator-owned properties are allowed to end. Corporate-owned properties are sucked dry. Yeah, I really think it's more of a corporate thing. I don't know if it's necessarily a cultural thing, because in the American market before the Comics Code Authority and before it sort of our market became consolidated by the big two and superheroes almost exclusively. There was a huge diversity of genre. There were comics that were aimed at women. There were romance. There was horror. There was all kinds of stuff out there. And it just kind of all shriveled and went away. And there was Vertigo and some indies until Vertigo for a while, and it was really good, but then they decided to axe that, and then you had IDW and Image, but then they've been getting destroyed by woke shit. So there you go.
Here's a kind of devil's advocate thing I saw in the chat earlier when we started the stream. Forgive me, I forgot who said it in the chat, but they were, because you brought up the point of, oh, these Western, the big two series never end because they're getting sucked dry. His quote was, Batman was 40 years old before Frank Miller got to him. What if Batman had been dropped for something new and we didn't get that great, story of The Dark Knight Returns? Same thing with X-Men. X-Men was doing nothing until, the new giant size X-Men stuff. And then you have the Jim Lee stuff, so there is kind of like a... I guess argument to be had of you could get new creators on these IPs that could take off and do.
But what if they had a healthier way of producing new stuff all the time, like they do in like these magazines, like these anthology things, where like you could have had a system for marketing and distributing new stuff so it got into eyes, and then a competitive mindset around how to make them, and like who knows what that period of Batman could have been if it was an original IP.
Yeah, sure. And I think that's another devil's advocate argument of like, well, that's a corporate thing where they're now farming these new creators because they've monopolized this industry where this is the only path you could take. You're going to write and draw these characters and make us money. And you're going to have these awesome stories because there's hungry creators like Frank Miller and Jim Lee and Chris Claremont, that it's not an option to do your own thing when you are getting into the industry in the West.
Well, it's like CG is bringing that back, though. Do you know what I mean? Like talking about the old.
That's what we're doing in CG and YouTube and this sort of promotional network we have. What we have is essentially an internet Western version of like Shonen Jump and weekly magazines in Asia. We're putting our work out there and doing like sort of saying like marketing it to a white audience on this platform and kind of like just giving everybody this collection, this glimpse of all of our work, and it's based on merit. And I think it was just a matter of time because that's the only way to improve the craft and put merit first. And that has been missing from Western comics for a long time. And it was just a matter of time before something like this arose. And it just happened that we found that through YouTube. But I think that's a good segue to talk about the publishing model, because I think that's the main difference, really. Like there's some cultural differences, but at the end of the day, I really think like people are similar and the types of stories people love are pretty similar across the world. There's a little difference regarding to like individualization or not, but the real difference is in how the books are published. But before that, Hospice Socrates says another really good point for $10. Thank you so much. The Western was about freedom from centralized authority. Most superhero stories are imperialist, although I believe all the Batman clones are spawned from a lack of imagination. Well, I agree with the last sentence. Yeah. The Western genre is very well Western, as in like the Western hemisphere, isn't it? You don't really see that in Eastern media because Eastern media tends to, you have some outlaw, you have like gangster movies and stuff. That's really big in Asia, but it's not quite the same thing. It's not like I'm out on my own and I don't need any centralized authority.
Well, an interesting thing with like Japanese culture is, I don't know if there's any mangas like this, but in cinema, you have those feudal samurai films from like the 50s were inspired by the Wild West films from over here. And then in turn, the spaghetti Western was an imitation of the Surukawa films of like Seven Samurai and stuff. So That's like the give and take of like, we really like this stuff, we're gonna copy off of you and put it in our films, and then we did the same thing, which is really funny. I don't know if there's a lot of like cowboy Wild West mangas. I haven't seen any, but I'm sure there are.
There are some films. Have you seen the The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly? That's the Western version. There's a Korean version.
Right. So like Seven Samurai is inspired by the Magnificent Seven, which is a golden age cowboy film. And then you have Sergio Leone coming in and making A Fistful of Dollars, which is just literally a direct ripoff of one of those samurai films. It's slipping my mind. And they literally sued him, and all of the money from Fistful of Dollars goes to Kurosawa. If I'm
There's a lot of interchange as well. It's just like at the end of the day, there's so much interflow. Just like how Tezuka was influenced. Tezuka, the father of manga, for those who don't know, used to create of Astro Boy and a bunch of. I think his work other than Astro Boy is the best because again, it's sort of like what appeals to the young male audience tends to be the most marketable. But I think as far as it's just like shonen and superhero comics because that's just the market of people who have time to read comics, to be honest. But if you guys don't know, you should read his other work. Read MW, read Ota Kirihito. He has a lot of really good, amazingly written, mature works for adults. But there's so much interchange, and especially Kurosawa influenced so many Western filmmakers, and Western filmmakers have in turn influenced Eastern films, especially Korean movies. I've noticed they take a lot from Western techniques and Hollywood as well. It's sort of like they polish and made it better. I found it's not like a Korean version of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, but it's like the name is an homage to it. It's called The Good, the Bad, the Weird. You need to watch it. It's amazing. It's a Korean movie, like outlaw gangster movie set in Mongolia. It's great.
Yeah. The director of that movie is like the best Korean director. And what he did, the one about the serial killer that it always comes up when we talk about it. It's about the secret agent fighting the serial killer. Do you guys know?
Yes, I can never remember the name because the name's really generic, but it's this murderer, and it's the same actor as the Old Boy actor. And yeah,
it's so good. It's like my favorite movie. But I thought of that too, that Korea is like Hollywood from the 90s, but they were doing it in the 2010s. And so like that was when Hollywood was getting crappy and Korea was getting better, and they've kind of surpassed Hollywood pretty easily now. But I saw The Devil. That's what the movie's called.
I saw The Devil. Yes, watch that. Yeah, Korean films now are so good. Parasite, Old Boy, and all these. There's so many movies out there. They really are going through a Korean movie renaissance. I know we talk about Bollywood a lot, but if you want like really good, serious storytelling, I mean, not that Bollywood can't be serious, but it's generally not. But yeah, it really, there's a lot of good Korean films, and their Korean films are also really big on gangster movies. I find that's pretty interesting. Let's see. Are there any more super chats? Let me get through just a couple more. Bill Tackett, thank you for becoming a new member. Thank you so much. Barb Rogers, thank you for the super sticker for Canadian 5. Mucho gracias. I think I got them all. Alex VRB for 5. Thank you. Enough from these amateurs. I want to hear about Temangers from the real expert, Tim Pool. Yes, he's the expert. You know how painful it was listening to him talk about manga on his show? I'm like, okay, I appreciate that he's a fan of Shonen, but he has the most basic, he's like your standard manga fan. And then he just rails off and goes off about, he is incapable of doing an elevator pitch, first of all. I was screaming in the chat, telling him how to elevator pitch Naruto. But anyways, nobody cares what I think. But
I'm sure he read it.
Of course he would read it.
Sure, it was read out.
He never reads it out. But I appreciate that he likes it, but it's very basic bitch. Also, I unofficially dubbed Creative Block the Articulates. Well, that doesn't go for me, but thank you for that name.
I'll take it.
Yeah. All right. I think I'll put a pause on that. I'll come back to super chats after a while. Thank you guys very much. I think let's get into the publishing models. And I know you had something to say about that as well, Jake.
Well, how should we go about explaining this? Because I think it would be really good for people to get a full download of how the system works. But how would we pass off talking about this to each other? Do you know what I mean? Because I don't want to just like split it all out. Well, okay. So I suppose at the core of it, you have anthology magazines, and they're cheaply printed. They're like everywhere, and everyone has them. People buy these fucking things and leave them on the train. Do you know what I mean? And they're thick as fuck. Are they like they're every week? And like, yeah. So they have like mini like 10-page chapters of stories that continue.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess we can start with I will lead. The main difference is everyone in the audience knows how American comics are made, and I assume everybody understands how European comics are made. And by the way, disclaimer, because I thought somebody saying this, we're not trying to like say manga is better. We're talking about the differences. I don't think manga is better than Western comics. I'm not trying to convert anybody. I think we should appreciate all comics. And I want to talk about the differences so people can have a better understanding of what
these guys know more about manga than me, so I'm here to learn as well.
It's like there are little things that they do that you can steal that aren't just big eyes and large panels. Do you know what I mean? There are elements to it that you can steal, and like
boobs.
Yes, and
we can bring that back.
And part of it, say for Marvel and DC, would genuinely be the fucking way that it's developed. Do you know what I mean? Like the way that new talent is brought. So like, okay, go on. What are you gonna say? You were going off on a thing, and then I interrupted.
Oh, no, it's fine. I was just going to start us off by talking about how it's actually published. Okay, so the main difference is manga is published on a very short schedule. The majority of they do have some monthly magazines, but I don't have I actually have some copies of Shonen Jump, but they're back in Taiwan.
I've got them.
But there you go. So the way manga has been published for going forward, but is every series, every publisher, for example, Kodansha or Hakusensha, but it's not even like all the series that are published under that publisher. They will, for example, like Kodansha will have like a shonen line and then a seinen line and then maybe a horror line. I don't think Kodansha does like horror, but in general. And then you have some publishers that lean more towards like josei, which is for adult women. So it's the main large genres are seinen, shonen, josei, shoujo. Anyways, but it's the books are determined by target audience. So for instance, Shonen Jump is the biggest one that's targeted at boys, teenagers, young men. And within that magazine, it's all black and white. It's like newsprint, and every week you have to put out a chapter. So it's like at least like 8 pages or so is average, but 8 or 16 pages, and every series has like a small chapter within it. So it's just that those magazines you see are a collection of all the shonen books that are being published under like within Shonen Jump. And then so instead of our issues, which come out monthly in America, instead of like this, they will publish like, I don't know, like 8 pages of this. And that's, or 8, not 8, that's like a really low page count. That's like fucking, I don't know, Hunter x Hunter, when there's like the creator doesn't.
You essentially have have like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman in the same book every week, and you get like 10,
essentially.
It's an anthology that is massively consumed on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
Now, and say you have, your Berserk came. I don't know if it came out like it. Just for an example, that series comes out this week. Is it always going to be in the next week ones too, or is there like 2-week intervals? Or
okay, in general, so in general, because it's also very merit based, and this is why I'll circle back to the Berserk thing, and if I don't, remind me. But in general, so in Shonen Jump, you'll have like a bunch of different series, and then every one chapter every week, and that's why the art is so simple and it's black and white, because they have to do somebody in chat. It's not 8 pages. That's like the minimum, but most are like 16 to 22 pages. So it's like an American issue, but you have to put it out every week, okay? And that's why it's so competitive. So first of all, you have to. This mangaka have no life, and they have assistants, and they don't sleep, and they have to put out like a whole chapter every week. But also they have reader surveys, and it's within the magazine, so it's only actually people who buy the magazines. It's not like an online thing. You can't fake it. You can't have a bunch of SJWs go online and like review bomb it or anything. It's people who buy the magazines, and one survey per magazine, and you have to like fill in a survey of which series you like the best and mail it back. So it's like snail mail. So you're targeting your most dedicated readers, and you're getting feedback from them, and the lowest rated series get cut. And that's the publishing model. And so that's why it's so merit-based and it's competitive. And I think that's part of why they figured out what works best. And some of the series that work best is just like light entertainment, like basic bitch entertainment that you can, turn your brain off and read on the train. But you also have really amazing popular stuff that comes out of it, like Akira and Berserk and Vinland Saga. And I think that's why manga is so popular, because it's entirely geared towards putting the customer first. It's not the company first. It's not the characters and what the editors or what the company wants. It's the readers first. So that explains why manga is more popular. We can do it too. I think American comics, if we just revamped our outlook, I think that's what we're doing in CG. That's by crazy. The way, we can be just as successful, but there's a reason for their success. It's not the big eyes. It's not the black and white. It's not just some like stupid American artists thinking that if I just draw like this, it'll be popular. That's not why it works. Why it works is because they have honed their craft and they've grown. Every single mangaka has had failed series. Every single famous mangaka has had like 5 failed series before they made it big, like every single one of them, and they keep on trying.
That's really cool, because
that's why they're successful.
Because you then are weeding out the not so good stuff. This gets popular, and then once it's popular, like Dragon Ball or whatever that came from a shonen, and it comes over here to the US, then you're getting quality stuff that all the Americans are.
You're literally skimming the cream off the whole thing.
Right.
Like that's why manga was so perfectly positioned to take advantage of the huge gap of quality stuff in the market, because they literally had like decades of all of these people competing with each other, like even like Iron Age style, like Iron sharpens iron, everyone competing in order to like based on constant fucking feedback. Like those surveys even decide where like the story's place in the book. That the story that's at the front is the popular one, and the one that's about to get fucking nixed is the one at the back who's on thin ice.
They don't care about your feelings or what sexuality you are. Your book needs to do well. Or
it reminds me of too with that format is like, if every chapter is do or die, then you got to make your chapters entertaining, and the West doesn't have to do that. If you go back to the 90s, then it's like with Claremont's X-Men, it used to be one issue would get converted to 1 half-hour episode of the TV show, so you'd get like a full story every issue, and that was like amazing and cool. And that's nowadays it's like you get 2 coffee scenes of them sipping coffee, each is 10 pages. And then
the 10-page coffee scene would get voted into oblivion, and they would get cut within like 2 fucking chapters. They would be done. Like
it's not just a 10-page coffee scene. Again, these are people who they want to do slice of life and they don't know how to do it. So it's a coffee scene where nothing happens. There's no character development. There's no interesting conversation. The paneling and shot choices are boring, and there's no twist. It's pointless.
The coffee doesn't turn into a tentacle monster, so
that would be a good comic.
That would. But here's the thing: they figured it out to where it's the best business practice, because literally your readers are telling you what they want, and in the US for Western comics, you have to wait a month or 2 months, and by that time you've already paid these creators to write and draw 4 issues because you want to have them ahead of time so you don't get caught up on deadlines. And now you just wasted money on, this series that it turns out is a flop. And then you got to put it out in trades if you actually make a story arc and it doesn't get canceled in the middle of an arc,
Mhm.
So, I mean, just by a business practice, that is way more efficient.
Yeah, like what the publishing structure seems to have become in Western comics, it just seems like actually retarded.
Yeah.
But
Thank
but
you. It has. Now, I don't know how it works in Europe. I think in Europe it's almost like what
An extreme
determines.
in the
I
other
asked
direction or whatever.
I asked
Yeah,
Bancroft
yeah.
about this, about the bande dessinée. Apparently, it's similar to manga where you'll have a team, right? But it's not like here are your assistants that like in manga and people work with editors, and that's another big difference. It's like these companies running the magazines, they're not just like, oh, we'll choose stuff, whatever. No, there are editors, and lots of them, and they're in groups, in cabals. There's a cabal of editors that are like the base level editor that will work with the artist almost like a producer. They have a boss who basically they submit stuff to, and they're competing against each other to impress their boss, right? Then all of those bosses of all the different cabals, they're competing with each other. So they're busting the guy's balls below them, and they're busting the guy's balls below them because they want to improve, and they want to fucking impress the head editor at the big meeting where all the decisions get made of like, here are the votes, here are your new pitches, we're kicking this, we're kicking your book, we're cutting your book, and I'm going to pick your thing and your thing. Like they're competing, like the base editor, the next editor, they're all competing to impress the head editor and the bit editor in the big meeting where the decisions are made of what's actually going to get published in next week's volume. And like, that's the competitive dynamo that like ends up making it so good. Like,
yeah, it's so editors have a lot of say over most manga series. It's they're almost like an uncredited, and I never see them credited. It's weird, but they're like an uncredited second writer almost. Like they have power to just tell the creator, you need to go in this different direction. But at the end of the day, I think that works differently because like creators, you know, still have to answer to an editor, whether it's in the American market or the Japanese market, but it's all still determined by that audience survey, and that they're not just like trying to kiss ass and like who has the right check boxes and who is friends with the head editor. It's like your books need to sell. But that's a good point. Like the editors actually are really hands-on, and in my experience working at Marvel, they weren't. It was sort of like you're just there to do a job, not a lot of feedback, not a lot of critique, but maybe that was just me. And
they
maybe
don't need
that's
to
how
compete.
it is now.
They wouldn't need to compete, right? Like if
very low competition is my experience, and it was sad because I want to improve, and I want the medium to improve, and you need to compete to improve, you know. But I think that's actually just a modern issue.
It's weird. It's weird for a Western industry to not have competitiveness within it. Like,
right?
If you think about capitalism, that is supposed to be the driving force of capitalism. It's almost like that communistic in nature of like, we have these resources and then we're gonna centrally choose how to distribute them between.
Yeah, but well, that's the problem though. These people aren't capitalists. They're something else.
Yeah, but I think in Europe, apparently, the bande dessinées, this is my understanding, it's kind of like you have a team like a manga would, but it's like you and your guys, and you'll basically come up with a pitch similar to how like people are pitching all the time in manga, but like apparently they like go to publishers and pitch their projects, and then they'll like get picked up, and they are. I don't know if people in the audience know about this. I swear that in Europe they still do have magazines like this.
Do they?
I think they do. Like I have one of them at least.
And a lot of that I've seen, and I thought it was just like these are basically probably pitched to a publisher. They get a grant to work on it, and then it comes out in this really high quality, almost novel-esque form, but graphic novel. You know,
yeah, that makes sense.
It doesn't seem like you realize, but I'm not sure.
And they call it the albums almost. It's almost they put it out like a music album, and I guess it's more like maybe they would. I guess it's a little different because it's not like you have like the publishing deadline is so much longer. So I think my understanding is most European books you get like a year or more to draw the whole book, and that's why the art is so detailed and they treat it like a real high art. Like this is, you know, like a lot of creators do watercolor pages and stuff, but maybe it's like, but they still have installments. You'll have like, I don't know, like Skydoll 1, Skydoll 2, and stuff. Can't think of any other series.
Yeah, well, Richard Cahill and the Jets is 2000 AD and Judge Dredd magazines. Yeah, so that's something different. So like you have like the basically like it's like British manga. It's like Shonen Jump, but you have Heavy Metal magazine, which was originally French Metal Hairlant. Okay, you pronounce it, and then 2080 is your British Anthology magazine. It's over magazine size. And then you have a bunch of slew different characters that work for the company, but it's still a little bit more like Western how it's published, even though it is like
well, it's like it's Western in the way that they have their characters. Like you have like Beano, Dandy, like they have their core characters. So it's as if Shonen Jump was tied to Naruto, even though it kind of has been. Like it's like as if it marketed itself on that. Like if the main character's on every cover, and then you have like Viz in the UK as well, which is like it's almost like it's adult comedy cartoon stuff. It's also a bit zany and like 2000 AD.
You still have 2080 still around. They're still doing Judge Dredd and ABC Warriors stuff, but a lot of the guys that started there broke out and went over to Vertigo. Like Alan Moore and Grant Morrison wrote for 2000 AD when they first started. But we're talking about the bande dessinée stuff. That's like high quality. It's very different from anything that the manga's doing or the US is doing. With the presentation of the book is like a collectible piece you'd put in your library, on a shelf.
It's like a film. Each one is like a movie, basically, and like you could definitely separate all three of the kind of like the American BD and the Japanese stuff by how big each installment is and like what kind of ending you get. Because like if the bande dessinées are more like a film, so you have like how long is a typical bande dessinée? Is it like 100 plus? Is it 70?
It seems like it's more than 100 pages.
More than 100.
Honestly, it seems like what a lot of CG people are doing. Like, not a lot, but at least 50 to 100 pages.
Yeah, like so that is a full movie from beginning, middle to end, like one decompressed story, right? So it's like it's decompressed story, but your purchasing decision gets you one full story with a proper beginning, middle, and end. Then it seems like in America you have self-contained, almost resetting stories, right? That have cliffhangers at the end in order to get you to buy the next chapter. But they obviously have arcs. But I don't think the end of an arc in like an American comic is almost like potentially the ending you'd get in a bande dessinée. But it's probably never as impactful because it can't really have an ending, right? Like it still has to get you a proper ending at the end of an arc in like an American comic. It would almost be classed as like a jumping off point for a customer. And then
it's more like an episode of television. I think that's a good.
He was saying 50 to 60 pages.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people here are doing.
Sure, definitely.
I almost think that works better for like an episode of TV. That's a good chunk of entertainment to consume. But I don't know, just because we've gotten used to TV, but I like it.
I agree.
And then to complete that whole point, like the in the manga industry, it's like it's a similar length to the American comic stuff, but it is usually like they'll have a story and then the ending will be like an appealing cliffhanger in the twist. Like that whole twist at the story structure almost acts like the cliffhanger in order to get people to vote in order to want to see the next bit in it. But they do eventually, it's like they have an ending and they do have arcs, but like it's a million fucking books until you get to the true ending, right? And like some of them, so apparently like in the manga industry, like in the past. It's probably different now. Like the creators didn't even get to decide when their stuff ended. They were just told to keep going.
Oh yeah, that's why Bleach just went down to shitter, because he was just forced to continue on forever and ever.
So Irene, I have a heavy metal magazine right here.
Hell yeah!
You could see that. So got this beautiful Simon Bisley cover. Hail the Biz.
That is beautiful.
Hail the Biz.
You have comics serialized and anthology style, and in a lot of them they're reoccurring. So next month you'll it'll wrap up the strip, or it'll continue, and then they'll just go until that strip ends, and then they'll put a new one in there, and they'll solicit who's going to have something in it. And the thing about heavy metal too is they do a lot. There's nudity in there, as you can see.
Don't zoom in too much.
Yeah. So that's the, I guess, European style anthology.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know it seems like Europeans, they had their anthology thingamajig, and they figured out a publishing model to actually tell good stories, entertains the audience, and everybody has figured something out, except the American industry has just getting more and more dysfunctional, and now is just taking a nosedive. And I don't understand it. I mean, I do, but I don't, and pisses me off. Yeah.
All we got is crowdfunding right now these days.
Yeah, I think not to kiss our own asses, but I think this is the way to go. Clearly.
Like this, the CG crowdfunding books are like realizing what to actually do, and it's awesome. And
it's audience first, and it's competition, like I bring up manga a lot, but I'm not in the crowd that's saying we need to draw like manga and just do manga. No, we're Jake is an American, but like we need to create our own thing and like just be honest about our influences, and we can take inspiration from manga, European comics, but like at the end of the day, I'm still American. What I'm doing appeals to an American audience. And I think I have cross appeal to Asia, but I'm saying we need to learn from these other industries and make American stories and American comics great again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey.
Speaking of like Westerns versus samurai, this is a cool Western, but I think this is Thailand, but Tears of the Black Tiger, it's like maybe a little obscure, but highly recommend. And this has like super simple, awesome story too. Like a lot of these like Westerns and samurai stories, they're so simple. That's kind of part of the fun. And then it reminded me that Will Ferrell did a movie that's called Casa de Mi Padre. It's all in Spanish, and there's no jokes other than it's Will Ferrell. And I think they got an old Western script, and they didn't even like add jokes, and it's just him, and that's the joke.
Really?
But the movie, it's another one of these super simple stories that's actually really good, and I actually love this movie. And then the last little recommendation for anyone is Ride the High Country is an actual Western from like the late 60s, I think, and it's from a famous director too, but I can't think of his name right now. But that movie was amazing. That movie is just so good, so I recommend that. But,
cool. Yeah,
the Bond Dessinés love Westerns as well, by the way. Like if you want good Western stuff, apparently you can find a lot of good Western stuff in Bond Dessinée.
Yeah, they do. Even Mobius did some Western stuff. Blueberry. All right. I think that's about I don't have much more to say about the publishing model, but I went through some manga and I bookmarked it. I did my homework.
Nice. Some of that.
I want to give some examples about pacing, and because I think I think the publishing model is a main difference, but the pacing is also a huge difference. And it's weird because I would almost think that because manga has a more rush publishing schedule, they would condense the story more, but it's the opposite. And I haven't quite figured out why. But manga is known for having decompressed stories, and a lot of American readers aren't used to that. And for me, it's sort of, I want to strike the middle ground with my work because American comics are almost too compressed. It's like, I think I like the straight to the point, like you don't like linger too much on something. I think manga sometimes is like 5 pages of just people staring at each other looking shocked. It's like, I get it, okay. Or like Dragon Ball Z, they're powering up forever. That's mostly the anime though. But in American comics, it's like, well, you have to do 22 pages, and a scene needs to breathe, but I can't let it breathe because it has to be 22 pages. I don't like that. Maybe it's because manga has more flexibility. You don't have to do exactly 16 or 22. You can have some like breathing room there. But yeah, I have some examples here and some pretty art to show you guys. So hope you're entertained.
I have a suspicion of why they don't cover much ground in manga. Like you said, I can't figure out why. Imagine you're having to write a chapter every week.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to really cover a ton of story and plot and weave it perfectly? Or are you going to write like people react for 3 pages?
I don't know. I think like for me, I don't know. I'm only writing for like 1 book a year. And my view is I want to cram as much story into my book as possible. But I'm making a point to let things breathe because I don't personally like it when things are like too crammed. But this example here is I wanted to show, just look at how little dialogue there is. And the next page you really see what I mean. But see, like that panel is just a close-up on their face, and I don't think you see that in American comics a lot. It's just a reaction. Berserk's a little different though. Circling back to what Phil brought up, Berserk is published on a monthly schedule, except it hasn't been on schedule forever, but it's so popular they don't cancel it. So there you go. That's the situation with Berserk. Yeah, but Berserk's supposed to be monthly. There are some manga that are monthly, and look at this spread. There's like no dialogue, and I guess you have double page spreads, but it's mostly like big fight scenes and stuff. And I'll show a few more, but I think just looking at the amount of dialogue is very telling. I think here, like, look, this panel is just Guts just looking at it, and it really lets the moment linger, and you get to really feel the moment. It's almost like in a movie, this would be in slow motion, and you could feel this lingering there for a few more seconds, right?
Right. It's seemingly to make a more impactful emotional connection to what you're seeing on the page. Like, these characters are contemplating, they're in shock or hesitation.
Well, it's their reaction to the world, right? Like, to go back to that philosophical difference of like, this is the world and the twist, and like, now how is the character react to it? Like, manga is full of reaction shots where you're like learning the internal world as the character like comprehends what's happening. Like that last one that Rini showed up, like that was literally like a huge horrific fire, and like Guts was just looking, like even the decision to cut off half of his face while he was doing that reaction face was like, you don't even get to see how he's fully comprehending it. Like, it's a snippet. And I think it ties into that kind of like philosophical difference. Like and then if you compare it to American comics, like everyone just does the same expression all the time, and they're not really reacting. They're not doing crazy faces.
It's almost like too rushed. Sorry, I had to censor some things. There's a lot of nudity. It's Berserk. Okay, so like this, and look at, I marked this as an establishing shot, but there's also a big reveal on the next page. So it reads like this way to this way. But look at how detailed the backgrounds are and how they just spend a lot of time not just establishing it in one panel, because I think in American comics, even European comics, you tend to just do 1 or 2 panels establishing, and then you get into the dialogue. But here it's like you really take your time, and then the next page is the reveal, and this is what I had to censor it. Just a lot of little naked people, and they don't really have genitals, but I don't want YouTube to be weird.
They're fairies.
They're fairies. They're not. Yeah, they're fairies. But anyways, but yeah, like I think if this was Western storytelling, it would only be a couple of panels, maybe. Or this would all be 1 page in European comics, but it's decompressed in manga.
They hold on the emotion of a moment. They try and get the emotion of a moment across.
Yeah. They think about the emotion. I think with Western storytelling, a lot of it is like to the point, bam, 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 plot, and that's great. But I think it should be balanced with like you can linger on the emotion a bit, because that's what storytelling is. It's both. It's a balance between plot, but also the emotion. Because if there's no emotion, what's the point? You need to care about the characters. You're supposed to care about the story and what the characters are feeling.
Right. They're not afraid to linger on pages to make moments more impactful, whereas monthly comic creators don't have that luxury or just mindset because they're worried about the page count.
Yeah. Dan Lawless is in the chat. What's up? Dan says a picture tells 1,000 words. Yes, exactly. What's up? And here's another interesting technique where it's not the pacing, the sort of extended pacing of manga is used really well here. But what this is doing is this is a character called Askeladd, and he's starting to tell our main character about his backstory. And I want to show how they lead into that. They don't just rush into it. It's not just like the next panel is you just jump right into. I've been reading what was it, the Batman story where it's like Bane's backstory and he's in the jail, and I mean it's really good, but there's a lot of flashbacks and it's very to the point. It's like 2 pages later he's an adult, and like 3 panels that's his entire childhood, and it was a great story. But I was reading it, I'm like, this is classic American comic storytelling. It would be paced so differently in manga. And Nightfall, yes, Nightfall. Yeah, there you go. So, and that really struck me. But so he's starting to tell the main character about his backstory. I can't fucking flip this page like this. And then this is when the flashback begins. And it spends a whole day just like on a forge, just close up of a hammer and a forge, because he's talking about how he was born to a slave and he grew up in a forge, and it's just 2 pages, almost 2 pages of just, look, my mother was a slave, and then hammer, then establishing shot, more hammering, and then finally we see him as a kid. But you really transition into this world, and the author is milking it and letting you feel the moment. And cool. I think you could use
that might convert to animation a little more naturally. Like you could turn those into animation shots. Or I noticed if I try and adapt one of my comics or whatever, I'm like, oh, I have to add a bunch of shots to go with the timing.
Here you go. This is interesting. Here's extended pacing used to hold tension and establish mood. So those 2 examples I gave were like transitions and sort of establishing shots. This is one that holds, like, it's the pacing is slowed down to establish the mood. So it's like, this is again the character Askeladd, which by the way is an amazing character. He's meeting this king, and it starts here, by the way. So here they meet, they talk, and Askeladd is kneeling, and then they have a lot of tension, and then it's just like facing. I mean, this is kind of the title page as well. You can see here, but they're using the title page as another story page, and they're facing off, and it's just there's no dialogue for like 2 pages or like a page and a half. And look, that now you cut back to, it's almost like it's very cinematic. Think of this like a camera from this shot to this shot, and it's this breaking 180, but because they did the close-up, it doesn't throw off on the your understanding of the layout, because you're not generally supposed to break 180. But it's almost like what the mangaka is doing is storyboarding the camera panning from like over the shoulder of one guy to over the shoulder of the other guy. And just imagine if this was film, it would be like to the like from one behind one shoulder to the other shoulder. And they're just letting that moment really sit. And finally, at the bottom of this page, they start talking again. I thought that was really cool. Let me see.
Is that Berserk still, or is that a different one?
No, this is Vinland Saga.
Oh, nice.
It's also really good. Again, another seinen manga. It's not cutesy, obviously, at all. Very bloody. It's semi-historical. It's about the Viking Age and a historical character in the Viking Age, sort of. It's a revenge story, but I can't say too much because I would spoil it. But it's absolutely amazing. Oh, I don't want to show this. This would be too spoilery. But yeah, do I have some more? I'll just show a couple more. I don't want to like drag this on too long. But this is like really amazing. I really like Berserk and Vinland Saga. Let's see. What else is there? I think fight scenes are also a little more dragged out, though. I don't know. I think I think in American comics, that's just like recently there's like a sore lack of fight scenes, right? Because American comics has always been very action focused. But look at like this fight scene, how many pages just guts hacking through people and there's no talking. It's just, again, all about getting the reader into the moment with this really detailed art.
Go on that page again for a second. Like last week we did the whole paneling thing. Go to the page, pull out and see that spread. Like the confusion of that fight scene, you can, in all the confusion of like the paneling, do you know what I mean? Like all the kilted panel borders.
Right, yeah, to make it more a little intense or like off kilter.
Yeah, if it wasn't, if it was a less chaotic scene, the panel borders wouldn't be slanted. So that's a really good technique to use for if you're going into an action scene.
I'm noticing too, like what you said with the fight scenes, there's usually no talking during
hacking. No dialogue.
So that's something that Western comics is notorious for, is talking during fight scenes, right? You have Batman or Spider-Man talking during a punch and all that stuff, so you could, get more, I guess, character across. But is that something that is reoccurring? And because I'm looking at a book that I have right here, I'm also seeing a fight scene and there's no dialogue during it. Is that something that usually that's what they do in there?
It's like they usually
less long paragraphs and stuff, but they do talk, especially in Shonen. But Seinen tries to keep it more realistic, right?
Yeah.
Shonen has its tropes of like, oh, they're in a fight scene, they yell out their moves, and this is like, even My Hero Academia does a trope. They're self-aware that they're like, this move is Texas Punch and shit. It's pretty funny. But yeah, there's less. I don't know. I think in manga, it's not in general that they don't talk in fight scenes. I think in Berserk it definitely is true, and also Vagabond, that tends to be true. But I think it's almost like mangaka are more confident that they can just, because a fight scene isn't just let me think that's about it. It's not just about, well, let's show off some bloody shit and some cool moves. I mean, that should be there. But what a fight scene really is character conflict, and you should be resolving a conflict. There should be character development within a fight scene. And I almost feel like mangaka are, in general, more confident of their art just showing that. And it's like the characters don't necessarily have to say everything. You kind of understand what the development is just through the action.
The external action always seems to reflect the internal conflict. Like a lot of the reaction shots, it's always like a window into the internal world. Like they'll also have a lot of like thought bubbles stuff in boxes, and you'll get like how they're thinking and feeling during it. And like like in a fight scene, the fight usually is a reflection of like the inner turmoil between the two characters.
I thought this was a pretty cool spread.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah.
Double
That's
spread.
Awesome art.
Yeah, this stuff's pretty cool. But like it's also really wacky. Like, of course, the main character has a gun for a head. And, yeah, of course, it's like almost like a cyberpunky thing. So all the characters, and like in the first story arc, it seemed like it would be something along the lines of like a Japanese storytelling trope, like you were saying, where the enemy befriends the main character, whatever, they team up. There was a in the first book, there was a child who was kind of taken over by this evil cybernetic body, and the main character was friends with the kid, and then now he was kind of using the kid as a host to be evil, and he has to struggle with himself of having to hunt down his ex-friend, and that seemed like a very Eastern thing in storytelling for me, reading that.
Yeah, the focus on like friendships and the push and pull between friendships, I tend to read about that in Eastern storytelling more. I don't really see that so much in Western stories. Not sure why. It's like almost everybody's an ally, but it's like in Eastern stories, almost like your friend is almost like an adopted brother or sister, and it's like, well, it's like you're rivals, but then you don't want to kill them, and then now you love them, now you hate them, and there's like so much story going on between them, and between like friends. That's interesting.
You were talking about like how you're the book you were just looking at. One of the characters was explaining his backstory. Is there a lot of use of flashbacks in Eastern storytelling? Because I see that a lot in like American comics, like flashbacks explaining origins and stuff like that, and jumping around from timelines. Like I just read this book, Vanish, which is a newer Image book. Ryan Stegman, awesome art. It's actually the first thing I ever read by Donny Cates. But right off the bat, you get almost like something they would do in The Simpsons, where it's like, oh, we're here. This is modern day. Well, let me tell you how we got here. And it's like a flashback to when he was a kid and stuff. Of like, they set up this crazy world and like, whoa, there's superheroes, but I'll tell you what happened when I was a kid to lead there to being superheroes. And now I'm like this drunk alcoholic guy that saved the world, 100 years ago.
I don't feel like that happens that often. If there's a flashback, like it's kind of more like what Rini did at the beginning of Fiendish, where there was like a whole story that happened a while ago, and then there's a cut, and then you get like the modern day version, like the cold. It's almost like a cold open flashback from a TV show.
Yeah.
Totally ripped off FMA for that, by the way. I don't think flashbacks are that common in manga, really. It's almost they tend to do it in like really short bursts.
Yeah, it seems like very Western storytelling.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, for the Berserk anime from 1997, I know they start flashing forward and then they flash back, but they never flash forward again, which is kind of hilarious.
Yeah, they just stay in the flashback and then they just tell the story until the modern day.
Every episode, I'm like, when's it going to go back? It never does.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But Berserk is weird because Berserk is heavily influenced by Western storytelling, and it's almost the exception, but it's still very manga, but not. That's beautiful art.
Can you imagine a story that's a series of endless nested flashbacks?
Memento, the comic. Somebody needs to make that. Let me get to some super chats. Michael Dicha for 5. Thank you very much. Do you guys use the background ticking clock to build suspense?
Oh, so I've seen that done. They did that in, I think Jeff Johns wrote it, The Button, when they merged the DC universe with the Watchmen universe, and Flash was like trying to do something really quick through the issue, and there was literally a timer up in the corner of every page. I think that's something that could be used very well, but you can't do it a lot.
In Mob Psycho 100, it's about a guy called Mob who like gets stressed and he basically builds up energy and then he eventually flips out. There's always like numbers ticking up of like what percentage of stress level he's at, and that's kind of like a different kind of ticking clock. Like it's not an actual clock. It's like if someone pisses me off, then I've just added 20% to the timer, and then like he hits like an intense moment when the clock finally reaches 100%. So like that's a similar thing.
Yeah, that is similar. Oh, I forgot about Mob Psycho and One Punch Man. Those are other series that Westerners would really like. Those are definitely good. I don't, not necessarily. I think I don't use like a literal ticking clock anywhere in Fiendish, and nothing I've worked on or plan on working on really has that. But there definitely is like, it's more like there's a background time limit, like, oh, this person is kidnapped and we have to save them before they're killed, that kind of thing.
Yeah. It's very specific, and if you could find a cool way to use it, it's cool, but I feel like you can't just throw it in there just to be cool. Like someone just brought up, Teflon Ron. Yeah, Spawn started with a clock countdown. So at the end of every issue, and Todd just kind of threw this off the book after a while, he was supposed to be draining power. Like every time he uses powers, he would be at a different power level, and there was a clock for it. But then he stopped doing that after a while.
There was a literal ticking clock at the end of a manga called Raw Hero that not many people know about, and it was like literally a ticking clock attached to a bomb. But like it wasn't like the tension of the ticking clock again drove to a character making a decision of like self-sacrifice, like, and it was like the reaction of these people making this emotional exchange as like this character who wasn't a particularly admirable character suddenly makes a decision and becomes kind of admirable at the end. So
wow. All right. Ruby J90 for 5. Thank you. Who is your favorite CG writer? You can't choose anyone on the panel. Oh boy.
Maybe Vaughn for me.
Who?
Oh, there you go.
Vaughn?
Vaughn.
Von
Cool.
Klaus.
Mhm.
I would pick Vaughn as well.
Oh my.
Mike Murphy's great too. If we're talking about people not on the panel.
Ooh, dude. Mike Murphy's what is it? Only Gods. What was that book? Gods Could Say It. Not Death. The one with gods in it. And it was the cyberpunk one in the future with the kaiju.
Yeah.
What's that book? People in the chat tell me. That book is awesome. I hope he does more of that. Aaron Lopresti, I think Wraith of God was amazingly written and very pulpy. So I'd really dig him. But yeah, Mike Murphy's really good too.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't read enough to be
God damn it, Jake.
to be able to pick one.
I'm gonna be a rebel. I refuse. I reject your premise. I will say it's everybody on the panel. There we go.
Hey, wah, 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 wah.
Hey, have a wah, wah, wah.
Oh, The Gods Fear Me. That's the Mike Murphy book. That was really, really
Yeah,
good.
that's a good title.
Yes, really good.
Oh yeah, Vaughn is good. I also like Michael Oden's work, and it's not just because he's my editor now. But I think yeah. So obligated shout out. Not really.
Graham Nolan's The Chenoo and Alien Alamo I really dug as well. And those are like non-crazy action-packed superhero romps or whatever. They're just like good stories, and I thought those were awesome. So
it kind of feels like with CG, the writers are teething on exploring decompressed storytelling.
Yeah, you
know what I
think
mean?
so?
Like filling out that space, like especially writer artists. So it's like that. There's probably a lot of people, writer artist style, not like people like Mike Barron, who are obviously been writing for a long time and very good at it. Yeah. But like I think there is probably an evolution going on in a lot of artist writers' heads where they are starting to finally be able to explore decompressed storytelling and like probably going to have a lot of fun with it and potentially like could get some really well written like book 3s and 4s. Do you know what I mean? Like as they explore it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
They
the pacing, you got me just thinking maybe the decompressed pacing in manga is because it's predominantly writer artists, and even when there is a writer and an artist separately, they work very closely. It's not sort of in America where you write a script and the artist follows the script. In manga, usually the writer does like loose thumbnails, but then the artist like has the freedom to just like change things up, and it's much more of a collaboration.
It's like literally, here is my 48-page book. Oh, now it's 80 pages. That is a writer artist exploring decompressed storytelling and like adjusting accordingly. Like I think that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. I think we can strike a good middle ground, and I don't know. It's just my personal preference for storytelling, but I think it's good. We're forging new paths here. Ghost House for $4.99. Thank you, $4.99. Gracias. Have you guys read Ultimo? No. It's a weird self-insert manga by Stan Lee. Really? He is a ripped super genius with a ponytail and Hiroyuki Takei, Shaman King. What?
What is that?
What is this?
Someone write it down.
I've never heard of this. Okay.
That's crazy.
Never heard of this.
Who's the Marvel guy who pretended to be Japanese?
That's CB Cebulski.
Yeah. So Stan Lee pulled a CB Cebulski even before.
Yeah.
So, funny story. The first time I met Kenneth Rocafort, and this was before I ever did crowdfunding. It was at a C2E2, and I went up to his table because I loved his art, and I know he did the redesign for Lobo, and I gave him shit about that, and we talked about Bisley. But CB Cebulski came up to his table, and he like introduced us. He's like, "Oh, this is big Marvel publisher guy, CB Cebulski." I'm like, "Oh, cool." And then I started hearing that name when I started listening to more YouTube stuff. It's funny.
Guys, I have one more quick stream I got to do tonight because they're reviewing Cerberus on Well-Read's channel.
Yes.
So I got to pop in there.
Oh.
And I'll be
No
back
worries, man.
here. So I'll
Wait, Noel, before you go,
Okay.
what was that Will Ferrell Western film called? Because I really want to watch
Casa
that.
de mi Padre.
Okay, cool.
Also, my father.
Cool. All right, see you guys in a bit.
Okay,
See
see
ya.
you.
You know,
Have fun.
If I was to pick one of the best written books I actually have in CG, read in CG, it is Cerberus.
there you go. You did read it.
I was about to say, Lepresti is actually a really good writer too. Wraith of God is really good. We got a lot of artists that are like hidden good writers that I feel like they've just never been able to flex their story muscles. Mo
Sislak.
I tried for 5. Thank you.
She doesn't know the reference.
I know.
I don't. Razor Fist did a vid on Westerns, covered some of this. Cool. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, he just put one. Well, he did a really good one probably like 4 months ago, talking about the spaghetti Western, and then today he just put out his like top 10 or top 5.
Razor Fist also did a good video on bande dessinée, and it also links to Westerns.
Oh,
Ooh,
yeah,
I
he's
need to watch
launching.
that.
He's launching his Indiegogo tomorrow. So
Sweet. That's awesome. I like how everybody's getting in on crowdfunding. I think also Dan Lawless, I started this. It's just because I thought this is interesting. We need to embrace Western art aesthetics. I agree. I think American comics and European comics has amazing art. Even now in the mainstream, there are so many amazing, absolutely amazing comic artists. And I think our storytelling is the strong suit of American comics. Like the paneling, the clarity of the storytelling. Our best comic artists are amazing storytellers, but it's like they are being held back by, first of all, a shitty industry, bad writers, nepotism, but just the entire publishing model needs to be completely revamped so the storytelling and the skills of the American comic artists can shine again. I think that's what we need to overcome.
Can you? It's literally if people talk about what could save Marvel and DC, oh, save them, do this, do that. Literally, if you were to do a silver bullet to save Marvel and DC, it would be potentially to be start a new anthology magazine that had like the more popular characters in it, like start having the voting, like start bringing in new IPs. Like, we haven't even covered how like the manga guys like own their own stuff.
Yeah, that's different. Basically, if Marvel and DC could learn a few lessons on publishing, like they do these like manga lines and they hire artists that draw kind of in manga styles that they don't understand. The issue isn't just the art style; it's entire publishing model needs an overhaul. They need to change what's in the bones, but they keep on just changing like the makeup and the dressing of it. And I think that'll work, but the problem is deeper.
That's a great idea, Jake, with doing like something that is serialized like that, because I think it makes more opportunities for people. And if you do it like that, where the audience is voting on what the best series are and stories, then you're going to get actually merit-based comics, which is not in Western culture.
Another element that we haven't covered as to why those magazines are so good. So imagine you have an anthology magazine from DC and it has Superman in it, right? But it also has like Joe Pistol in the one-shot preview of this potential new pitch series, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So like people are going to buy the anthology because that's where they're going to get the next Superman, and they love Superman. But hey, in the book is also Joe Pistol. And like, oh, I never would have looked at this before, but now I have. And like, you know what? Maybe I'll vote for Joe Pistol because it's their one shot. And if they get good votes, maybe it'll become a series. Do you know what I mean? Like,
you have to create Joe Pistol now.
Joe Pistol? Why would he even be a guy? It'd be a guy with a fucking gun for a head or something. I'm Joe Pistol.
Yeah, man.
Joe Pistol. That's you have to do something with that now. It's copyrighted, quick. But yeah, that really merit-based model, if they kind of took some hints from what manga is doing and brought it over and just kept the American art style and their stories, but let the readers fucking vote on which series continue, that would save the industry. But let's just face it, they're not going to do that. And again, I think what we're doing, and with Indiegogo and with like co-recommending series and doing streams and co-promoting books, we're kind of doing that, but in a digital form of like everybody's on the same platform
100%.
and just like the viewers can pick which one wins.
The streams are the anthology, and the voter survey is whether you back it or not.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, Nerot and Nexamand Bear. I did it this time for 5. Thank you. Wait a sec. Is everything in reality one big pyramid scheme? Yes. Also, what is the most foreign, most obscure comic everyone should read? Oh boy. You go.
No, I was just gonna joke because I had my friend's old comic, like Tales from the Flat here, from like fucking self-publishing from like a million years ago. I was like, this is the most obscure thing because you've obviously never have heard of Tales from the Flat. But like this whole volume that my friend put out like over the years, like it's fucking awesome. It's got some cool black and white art. I love all of his work. But yeah.
There's if you guys like lighthearted action comics, there's an Image book that I was picking up a while ago called Curse Words. It's by Ryan Brown and Charles Soule, and it's fun. It's about an evil wizard who is sent to Earth to take it over, but then he falls in love with Earth and defects from his evil cabal ring, and he starts a business of granting wishes to people in the city for money. And then the evil cabal comes after him and tries to kill him and enslave the Earth. It's fun. I didn't finish it. I need to, but it was pretty fun for a while.
There was a really cool one-shot that the guy who made Chainsaw Man did called like... what was it fucking called? Oh, God. I'm looking for the title now.
What, Fire Punch?
No, that was before. It's like Goodbye Eri or something. Like he did
I
a
read
one...
that one.
And it's pretty impactful. And his name is Tetsuki Fujimoto. So just
Which,
type
by
in
the
like
way,
Goodbye Eri.
Okay, Fire Punch. Chainsaw Man is good. Fire Punch kind of unraveled towards the end, but it was interesting.
Can I ask you a question about Fire Punch?
Yeah.
Just as a side.
Yeah.
Did you fucking hate the director character?
She's very annoying.
I was super into that book, and I was like, "This is fucking awesome." Then, as soon as she showed up, I'm like, "I'm not reading any of this ever again."
Oh, I think I put up with her. I was like, "Oh, she's really annoying," but I wanted to see where the story went.
Does she fuck off, or does she stick around for the whole thing?
No, spoilers. She gets killed, but it's at least it's really badass. It's really badass, and I won't say how it happened.
So does her annoyance pay off?
I think so, yeah.
I'll continue reading it.
Yeah. But yeah, what's interesting is, I forgot. Okay, now I thought about another manga that people should check out, although it's probably not for everybody, but everybody should take a look at Blame, Blame, by Tsutomu Nihei. Okay.
I've seen the covers for that. The covers look awesome.
Okay. I'm gonna pull this up. I'm not answering the actual question hold on. Okay, too many things in my brain. I actually am Googling trying to find the name of these manga I read growing up, because I read like there are literally historical comics, like manga about Chinese history, and there's one story about the Three Kingdoms, and I don't know what it's called. I don't know who wrote it, but I just read it because comics are everywhere. I guess it's manhwa because it was like Chinese, but that's really obscure. So you have like Asian historical manga all over the place. That's how I learned about history, by reading comics instead of the textbook, because it's more interesting. And there was so my family was Buddhist, and they gave me this beautifully drawn story about a Tibetan monk, and it was like watercolored and it was gorgeous. And I don't know the title. I can't find it, but someday I will find it and I will show you guys. So there. So yeah,
BRB says it's pronounced blam.
I don't give a fuck. It's spelled with an E. I will pronounce it blame. It's just, it's like Attack on Titan is not correct English, but it's written that way because the writer can't speak English. So blame is, in short, ultra far futuristic, like billions of years in the future story. The story is very basic, but it's also just, because it's such a weird world, it's essentially we don't even know if it's Earth, but it's set on a globe that's covered in technology, but it's also almost entirely deserted. So it's this one character with a really powerful gravity gun that can blast through buildings, basically traveling through these like concrete jungles of old like cities that are thousands of stories tall. You can't even see the ground anymore, and it's just constant landscapes. By the way, the artist was an architect, which is really amazing. This comic made me not be afraid of drawing backgrounds. This is why I like drawing backgrounds. Look at this. The whole manga is this.
Look at the action.
You're gonna make me buy this. How many volumes?
Buy it. But it's only like 9 or 10. It's only 9 or 10. Look at this. The whole comic is this, and it's just. The story is very basic. It's the main character is Killy, this guy with a gun, and he's trying to find a specimen, a being that has a specific genetic code to save the world or something. And it's simple, but it's so interesting because of just the exploration of the cities. And eventually he starts coming across like weird creatures and monsters. And as the story progresses, the creatures just get weirder and weirder, and you have like all kinds of weird shit, like what the fuck is this? And then you have Sibo, which is this other character. And I thought of Blame because when I was reading Fire Punch, I realized that the creator is definitely influenced by Nihei. Like the characters look a lot like Killy and Sibo, and then towards the end, especially with how it ends, it's like this is definitely a Blame reference. But anyways, so
is Fiendish fantasy Blame?
No.
Okay, because of the backgrounds and like.
This shit. No, I just like drawing backgrounds. But look at this absolutely absurd shit.
I got another one for you guys. If you want a British manga, because this was serialized in 2000 AD. This is really good over there.
Let's see.
ABC Warriors. All black and white interiors, but it's some of Bisley's earliest work, and see how his style first started out. It's like a post-apocalyptic world where there's almost no humans; it's all robots. And look at that! It's just the art is crazy cool. Just really insane shadows and inking on here, and
look at that robot's ass. Look at that ass. That robot thick B.
That robot ass.
Look at that.
That's beautiful.
Crazy. So
I love it. I love grungy technology. I like specifically that kind of sci-fi. Not all sci-fi, but like the really rough kind of tech.
Really cool tech, and almost like alien horror mixed with robots. And I think there's like one hot chick in it who's human. But other than that, it's just like this stark blacks and crazy popping white. That's like what Jake was saying, like British manga would be, Yeah,
it's produced in stark black and white, and unlike American comics, which is color, which is gay.
Yeah, well, that's another thing that I wanted to bring up: the difference between how manga is almost always in black and white grayscale, and then the difference between Western and European stuff, where how much they value color.
Hey, do you think if fucking Western's Marvel and DC, if all those comics were black and white, do you think what would have happened wouldn't have happened because you can't put rainbows in everything?
I don't know.
They would have done it eventually. I mean,
blew my mind. They would have found a way to show it, I guess. No, it still would have happened. They would have just figured out.
How do you feel about that as a manga reader, where this stuff is that's just how it is, black and white,
I absolutely fucking love it. I think it makes it easier to I personally think if something is in black and white, it's less information to take in at a glance. And when you look at a color thing, it can often be too much information, and it actually makes me like lock up sometimes and not really know what to think or feel. But I am an idiot.
I have no real preference. I think the technique is different, especially because with Fiendish, I originally was going to do black and white. And if you remember with chapter 1, there was a grayscale edition because I didn't know how much money I was going to raise. So getting it colored is a stretch goal. So
Right.
I think it's a different technique. And Phil, you recently adapted your Lost Pages comics to black and white, and it's different.
Right.
It's not just you desaturate it. I think the storytelling techniques are different. I appreciate there are so many things I can do in the color. Like, for example, I can magic and effects are easier to differentiate and make them pop because I can color code things and stuff. And my character's already color coded, because it's like, even though on the page, when I designed the page, when it's black and white, you have to keep the shadows in mind more. And it's more about, it's like a black and white film. You have to use the lighting and the contrast more, but I still color code the characters in my head. So in the color version, I can show that off, but I also lost something because in black and white art, it's almost like you can create more focus on just the structure and the mood.
I also think
not necessarily the mood, but like it's more focused on just like the structure, and yeah, it's more straightforward. But
I also think it produces more gaps that the reader can fill in. Like there's this whole concept I have of like frog DNA. Like in Jurassic Park, they didn't have the full DNA code, so they filled it in with like frog DNA, and then the park went crazy. But like if something is more simple in design, like a cartoony face, you can usually project onto it easier. So it's like you can interpret it. There's probably a wider spectrum of interpretation if you're looking at a black and white piece from person to person, from reader to reader. But if it's in color, it's like, no, it's more like this is what it actually is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, black and white is just more straightforward, and I appreciate both. I think different stories, it works for different stories, and I think almost in American comics, a lot of American comics, I feel like they color it just because it has to be colored. And that annoys me. I'm like, if you're going to color it, use the color to reinforce the story, right? But with European comics, like I think it's just because they can spend more time and they really use the color to enhance the story. And that's what I want to see. Like, pick whether it's black and white or colored, pick what works for your story.
Well, here's an example I had of the coloring versus not coloring. So this is from Frank Miller's Wolverine run, and this is a black and white, just like example in the back of a double page spread, but in black and white. But I love this run and the use of colors because Frank will do spots where there's no background or there's actual panel breaks with no background. And so here's the color version of it, and having that just white blanket in the background makes everything pop in the front, still utilizing almost like a black and white style technique, but there's color in here as well. I thought that was super cool.
Yeah,
that's nice.
Yeah, I see that. Mm-hmm.
I also love this. I also love the single color thing where you can have it's pretty much black and white, but then you have a layer of color or a couple of colors.
I like a limited palette too. That's what I tend to do in my coloring. That's what I tell my colorists to go for. Just like pick 2 colors for a scene and stick with it.
Sure. Yeah, really build a mood that way.
Mm-hmm. All right. Jason Sandberg for 2. Thank you. Captain Kleinbottle has nested time loops. I have not read that. Oh yeah, back when we were talking about time.
The infinite flashback. If you want to talk about building tension, it's like you have the first story and a moment is about to happen, but then you flash back and then you get all the way to the beginning of the story, and then you flash back again and you get all the way to the beginning, and then you flash back again, and you never get to the fucking actual ending, potentially until the very end. And like the final flashback will give the ultimate like backstory to this final moment. Like, oh, that would be agony. It would be absolute agony. But
They-
Go
would be
for
good
it,
te-
Jake.
it could be
Make a
good
comic like that and torture all of us.
I'll
So
do it. That'll
they
be
did-
Joe Pistol.
They did something like that. Alan Grant and John Arcudi wrote a crossover between The Mask and Lobo. And the basic inciting incident is Lobo is hired to track down The Mask because The Mask destroyed a planet, right? Somehow. And he's hired by the planet to go track him down. So the whole story is just these antics that they get into, them fighting each other, teaming up against someone. And so at the end, Lobo gets the mask. And if you guys don't know, if you put the mask on, you turn into, the id of you, and you're embellished and you go crazy and can do whatever you want. So he gets the mask, he puts the mask on, and then there's some time loop where he goes and destroys that planet. So he was hunting himself with the mask on at the end, and so he throws himself in jail. So Lobo with the mask on, he didn't know that it was because of him, and it was like this time paradox thing. It was hilarious.
That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Mind blown.
I
Ooh,
love
Granda
writing.
brought up Sunken Rock. Yeah, I had that pulled up as well. I was like at a bunch of examples of Eastern comics that aren't like
Look out for
what
the
people
nipples.
expect. I did.
Nipple
I mean, I
watch.
tried. Yeah,
Let's try.
nipple watch. Okay, I've shown this off before, but is that? Oh, that's just that's just butt. That's fine. So there you go.
I bought that book because you talked about him.
Yep. The nipples. The nipples.
Kind of. That is.
No, it's not. The cloth was very close. Technically,
Very
this is
sheer
not-
fabric.
Whoa,
there's
yeah.
panties. There are panties. She has panties.
Wow, that
This is okay.
really cool.
Okay. So, anyways, these are all clothed. YouTube. There's no porn. Yeah.
Very
So go
detailed.
check out Boichi's art. And this is Sunken Rock. I'm afraid of scrolling.
Remember to always search random Google images that you haven't checked before whilst on a live stream.
Well, but I have the search for where it's supposed to filter out the the racy stuff.
Because that always works.
Shut up! Stop trying to sabotage my stream, Jake. Just be like, there's totally no nips there at all.
Oh, sorry.
Okay,
Yeah,
anyway.
YouTube. It's all
Nothing.
fine. I didn't see anything.
Okay, so yeah, check out Boichi. Absolutely amazing art, and here's some other stuff. The Ravages of Time. I haven't read it, but I'd see it everywhere. It's just like an actual only Chinese manga that really got super popular all over Asia, and has a really it's a more realistic style. It's actually it's really beautiful.
Now I want to like read
Check
a
this
book
out.
called The Ravageurs of Time, where they travel through time and like just like pillage different eras.
So I guess you can make a book. You can make a book with that title, The Ravages of Time.
No, the Ravageurs, like they're the Ravagers, but they time travel.
Well,
Never
you
mind.
have to make it.
Okay. All these things to make.
Yeah. And then Shaman Warrior pulled that up as well. So there's a lot of stuff out there. Not all manga is very diverse.
Holy shit! There are master editions of Blame because I'm trying to buy it on stream, right? And like Volume 3 Master Edition of Blame, 400 pages. Like imagine putting out a book that's 400 pages of your own stuff.
That's one volume.
That might be the
like-
whole thing. Yeah, I was wrong. It's only 6 tankobons. So basically 6 trade paperbacks. So that's probably the whole story.
Nice.
That'll make.
Oh, hey.
So this is Kyung Lee, who put this out, back in the day in CG, like 2021. But he is obviously a huge manga fan. He draws in a manga style, but he uses kind of more. He mixes the manga layouts with more US, kind of comic booky paneling and layouts too. So like he'll do where is it? I mean, these big double page spread with your character breaking the panels, stuff like that. Something you'd see more of a 90s style comic, but still using the lettering sound effects and obviously fighting style, action styles.
Can I ask a question of Rini? If you hold on that page, Rini,
This one?
Is
Yeah.
there a specific reason for whenever they do the thick horizontal gutter, or is it just to split up a page into two big chunks? Because I don't see that ever done in Western comics, and I see it pretty effectively done in Eastern. It's not on that page. You see
Split,
that thick border that goes through the gutter that goes through the middle all the way across the page, and it's like pretty much split the whole scene in two.
Mhm.
Like, does that have a name, or is it just like a style?
I don't. Maybe there's a name, but I don't speak Japanese. Usually in manga, I have noticed that, and I do that in my work. But I use it to break the time on the same page if I want to do like a time break or like the next day. But in that page
Okay.
specifically, what was being done there was clearly that. Hold on, can you go back to the spread?
Yeah.
Por favor.
Spread them.
So if spread them. If that thick break wasn't there, because it's a double page spread, and you have multiple panels, it's not like one big panel across the top and one big panel across the bottom. It could be mistaken as two pages. Like, it wouldn't read as a spread. You wouldn't know which direction to read. And so having that one very clear gutter right across the middle makes it clear, okay, this is a spread. So I don't go from like panel, like the panel where she's clicking to the panel where she's a little girl. You go to like the panel to the left of the one where she's kicking, and then you go down to the bottom row, and then you read the one where it's like she's a little girl punching the dark panel. You see what I mean?
I love the paneling on that spread. Right. So, like, from the outside looking in, I've never bought a Battle Maiden Knuckle Bomb. Seeing these actual internal pages makes me actually want to buy them.
Yeah, I think
this is actually really good.
He sells them on his Etsy store, so you could probably just Google it and find his thing. And he's got like crazy. Look at this guy's like from Ghost, villains. Crazy. I think she's a villain too. It's really good. He's just taking a little. I mean, he's still working on stuff, but
holding that page. I know we were talking about decompressed storytelling, and Rini brought out all those moments of like large panels, lingering moments. It is always mixed in with these fucking dense as shit pages. Yeah, and it's good to have like a difference, because that's the actual flow, right? But like, it's obviously all seinen manga, it still has like this stuff going on.
How he does, like, she's like crazy detailed. He's using tones for zip tones and stuff like that. And then you have like these characters, which are just like little fun caricatures and moments and stuff. So he goes back and forth between that, almost like you're watching like an anime. We have those moments and like
this is really well done. Honestly, I think Battle Maiden Knuckle Bomb is the only sort of Western created something created by a Western creator in the manga style that actually works.
Yeah,
that actually really passes and works well.
Yeah, he killed it on this, and you guys should check it out and see if it's still on his Etsy store.
I want to buy a volume of it though. If they've
got
out a bunch
two issues like that, and they're probably around 50 pages, maybe.
Okay.
That's good. Groundhog House mentioned Akira. Yeah, but I just assume everybody knows about Akira already.
Oh, yeah.
I assume people know about Ghost in Shell Akira because that's what everybody knows. So I'm trying to recommend other things. But yeah, definitely. Akira, the manga. By the way, it was a manga before it was a movie, and the manga's way more expansive. The movie is like the first act, and then it just jumps to the end. And it's like, there's so much more to the story. So you should read the comic. Let me double check. I think I might have missed a couple of chats. Let me just double tap. Oh, Lieutenant Hughes for 2. Oh no. Okay, Jake, you ready? You get to annoy the fuck out of me now. Lieutenant Hughes for 2 says, no, I wanted a bonk, 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 bonk.
So like, we've missed a lot of bonks because you had a lot of super chats. So like, here we go. Here they all come.
$2. Now that's money. $2. Now that's money. $2.
There you go, Lieutenant Hughes.
Is it over yet?
Yeah, it's over.
Now that's money. $2. That's money.
Thanks. Thank you, Lieutenant Hughes. I really appreciate it. Oh, and by the way, I want to shout out Grandad Comics is a friend I met when I was in Colombia. He has a comic called Terrores Nocturnos. I apologize for my shit pronunciation, but it's a awesome book. He's a comic creator. He has a really awesome style. Yes, Night Terrors.
Can you hear this?
Yes, I can hear it.
Sorry.
Very annoying. Good job. I have it right here.
I'm just so annoyed by sound.
Because my Spanish is garbage. I can barely read it, but it's absolutely adorable and beautiful.
Before.
Yeah, I've shown it off on
awesome.
I think it's one of my favorite hauls from my trip to Colombia. So look at that. It's all black and white too. And let me flip to.
I like the choice of having a dust jacket.
Ooh, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really good art, and it's kid friendly too. Amazing.
It's kid friendly. Child being eaten by a demon thing.
Well, it's kid friendly for not wimpy American kids.
I love those. That's so cool. Good stuff.
Yeah, it's really good. This would do so well if it was like. I think it would do amazing if it was in English and on Indiegogo.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. So everyone, give him a follow, I guess.
You mean it's not in English? I mean, I can't read that in English. That sucks.
I endeavor. So it's my favorite book that I picked up in Colombia, and I'm like trying to learn Spanish. So I'm like, someday I'll be able to read this, and then I'll know I made it. I can read at like a 5th grade level. That's good. That's good enough. It's also why I have these manga volumes that I bought in Japan. I only keep it because I'm like, okay, I'm trying to learn Japanese. I mean, I haven't been working on it recently, but I'm gonna keep it with me because I'm like, someday I'll be able to read the original Japanese. Yeah. Okay, anyways.
I've got it, guys. I've got to show something super quick. I'm trying to find the right. Where's my StreamYards window? Oh, it's in the same thing. Whilst we were doing this, I just saw this on Twitter.
You buy something?
Someone posted this.
Whoa!
Here you go. Thanks.
That's awesome.
Thanks, Benjamin. The hair's a bit shorter. I love the Hawaiian shirt style. That's great. Thank you very much.
I love his eyes too.
Thank you very much. That's great. That's very awesome.
Bravo.
Good job.
Wait, I gotta do it. I gotta do that.
Wow. There we go.
Like, what is the expression?
Let me full screen you. No, you had to look a little more hapless and completely clueless. Perfect. You just cycled through like 20 different expressions.
That's so good.
It's called acting.
Acting, actor.
Benjamin, great job, Benjamin.
Yeah, thank you very much, man. Awesome drawing. And if anyone else draws other people during an episode, I'm sure in the future they can get shown too. So it's like making a meme, but instead you draw a picture or something. But thank you very much.
Yes. Feel free to draw all of us and mollify our egos even more because draw me. Oh, make me excited. I need a bigger ego.
Yeah, you need to do a better job than me, a less insulting job.
No, clearly I have embraced caricatures, even ones that are insulting, Jake. But I love it. Grounded says he is translating and coloring Terrores. Awesome. I would love to see that. Yes, I'm excited. Yeah. I don't think it necessarily needs colors, but if you want to color it, I'm sure you'll do a good job. So yeah.
You could get some very emotive colors though. You know what I mean? Like I can imagine an artist that draws something like that isn't just going to throw any colors at it. They're probably going to pick a really good palette to enhance the emotion of the scene.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had this pulled up because this is actually the work that I did with Kyung Lee, who did Battlemane Knuckle Bomb.
Hold on, I'll be right back.
All right, cool. Jake, have I showed this to you at all yet?
No, I think I've seen this one image before, but is this going to be like a multiple page thing you can go through?
Yeah, so it's a 4-page short. We did this book. I don't have it near me, but for our first Lost Pages campaign, it was a book of 4-page shorts about each of the characters in the universe, and this was kind of our manga style character who's a vigilante, and I teamed up with Kyung. He was awesome to work with.
he took my script and just made it as manga as possible. Actually, Mike Murphy, who we were talking about earlier, he colored this like cover image, but it's just like a little vignette intro to the character. So you got these gang stalking this thick chick who's walking down the streets.
Do you know what?
What's up?
One thing you can do in the black and white, by the way, is kind of like cheat and also be lazy, but in an effective way. Like if you go to like if you draw stuff like that, those motion bits where it's just white, you don't have to pick the color that signifies like a gap, like a nothing, a negative space. Like if you go right to the bottom on the last panel, like imagine having to pick the color that would contrast so well with the ground and that's in the motion lines to actually like make it feel like you have that motion going on. But
right. So he did all of the like Japanese lettering, and then I did like the I lettered everything else in here. But yeah, just a little like quick thing where these these hoodlums are rustling up this chick. If you guys are a big fan of Big Trouble in Little China, there's a gang in there. One of the guys has these glasses, so I'm like, hey, can we use those glasses in there? He's like, yeah, I love that film. So we did a little homage to Big Trouble Little China. And then now this is where like I kind of did like an American comic badass moment, where he's walking out of the smoke here, introduction to the character. But it was really fun doing this. He did a great job at just cartooning this up and making it into a little quick manga fight scene.
Ooh,
lots of energy.
It looks as dense as a Western comic, but in the visual style of a manga. Like,
right.
Yeah, I like it. What was this called again?
This is Drift Legend. He's one of our characters from the Lost Pages that eventually we'll expand upon, but it's just a little intro we did.
Is Reedy going to start drinking?
Yes.
It's
no, someone.
Thursday night.
Yeah, we're winding down a little bit, and I figured
Hell
we'll
yeah.
hang around a bit, see if Narwhal comes back. But if we hit 12:30, he's not back. We'll just say fuck it, and then we'll go get drunk. But
go and get drunk. Yeah, I got a whole bottle of Jägermeister.
This is a gift. I think it was this from Marami? Thank you. It's all like little booze chocolates. So
Are they like liqueurs? Are they like liqueur things?
They're little chocolate things with chocolate bottles.
You eat the chocolate and it has the alcohol in it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
it's
amazing.
awesome. Yeah. I've been saving it to treat myself. There's no real special occasion. I just want to try one right now. So whatever. Somebody asked me in the chat, I'd lost the chat, but of the drawing with the girl with the gun that I showed on John's stream. That was Sunken Rock. That was Boichi. Boichi. I just showed the series, so I can't find that exact image.
Can you get any Sunken Rock books in English? Oh, sorry, Boichi. Get any Boichi stuff in English? Because I remember the only thing I could find was that like one art book, and the rest was like always in German or something. Like the Germans get cool stuff for some reason when it comes to
manga. So Origin, which is another Boichi work, and Sunken Rock are both available in German, and also a lot of other really good seinen comics, manga specifically, are in German. I don't know why it's like all the Europeans get the cool shit, because I want it too.
It's definitely so that like the English speakers don't get to shout at them. Like, you know what I mean?
This is too many boobs and.
Well, this is too weird and fucky and like, yeah, like. But
wouldn't that suck though?
It's usually the best. It's usually the stuff where you're like, holy shit, that looks cool. You know what I mean?
Oh, I found it. Okay, I found the art. Nipple check. I have to nipple check every time I pull up Boichi's work because it's like might be something going on there. Hold on. Is there? Nope, that's still too racy. Nope. He does a lot of like scenes where the story is there's a character who's a daughter of this Yakuza boss, and she's going to take down like her family's enemy or something. So there's a lot of action scenes with her, and she's flipping around, and he will place the camera like right below her butt. and she's always wearing a mini skirt. So it looks like it's like just porn, like just her privates. But there are panties there, but you can't see it because it looks like there aren't panties, but there are. Anyways,
it's the same. I really fucking love that. Like, it's the same with the Artist of Prison School and Raw Hero. Like, it's just they'll be having a conversation, and it's just the woman's ass and the gap between the legs, and they're talking to the other person, and it's like it's not even that the ass is a focus. It's just like, I decided in this panel I want to draw someone's ass.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna try my best to actually do that too.
It's wonderful, but I like this shot. This is really cool.
It's so cool because you have, just like I was talking about in Kyung Lee's work, where and this is even crazier detailed. You have the crazy detail in the foreground, and then the anime cartooniness in the background with the exaggerated reaction of cartooning.
But it's like it gives such a unique feeling to what is happening, though. That contrast, like all of that contrast, it just makes a unique feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. CJ Lightwolf says there's something to the lines in Japanese manga. Well, most mangaka still draw in nibs, and I think because they have to work in black and white so much, a lot of them had just perfected line art. And not to say that, I think, again, there are a lot of amazing American comic artists. That's the strong suit of American comics. But there is something to manga art. Like, the really good ones have amazing line work as well. And so here is an example. Not all manga is like fucking Naruto. Look at this shit. This is also manga. I mean, the creator Boichi's actually Korean, but he works in Japan, so it's manga. Who cares?
Can I posit something? Like, if you want to compare, say, like the artistic sensibilities of the two different like cultures. So when you're growing up and you're learning your language, and you're learning how your letters are formed, and like English is like blocky, super utilitarian, super clean, right? The languages that are based more on like pictorial stuff, like Japanese, Chinese, and stuff, like even the line weight differentiation is like in the letter, right? Like you're literally doing almost brush strokes with a pen to like draw character forms, right? Or do you not think that influences them being able to do different, like be more comfortable doing different styles of line? Really?
No.
Okay.
No, I think you're making connections where there. I mean, it's an interesting theory. I'm sorry, but I don't think that's actually the pictorial thing. Well, what it does help is I think it gives you a better memory, because the only fucking way to learn Chinese or kanji is by just hard memorization. And there isn't a single child who had to learn kanji or Chinese, specifically Chinese, who didn't cry through the whole thing because it's hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, I don't know if it affects art. I never felt that. I mean, it's not true for me.
Alex says Irene's pain is visible.
Yeah, I was trying to get a point out, and seeing that face was like, I've still got to finish this point. I can't give up on it yet.
I'm sorry.
I know this is going to go nowhere, but I need to finish speaking.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I was listening. I was like giving it thought. I didn't want to dismiss you, but I just don't think it's true.
So mangakas have assistants, right?
Mm-hmm.
We kind of didn't really go over that, but would this be like a thing where the guy in the back is drawn by his assistant, and then the guy in the foreground that's hyper detailed is drawn by him? Or do you think he just has background assistants or something? Or this stuff's crazy.
Yeah. This is a shot that everybody fucking loved, which is amazing.
My God.
I love this panel.
You would potentially have an assistant that does like action lines.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Like Rini wants an assistant to draw trees.
Right.
Yeah. I think the assistant would, the main artist would always draw like the main characters and like the characters in the foreground, probably the anatomy, but the assistants would draw the guns and tools, action lines. Mostly backgrounds are drawn by assistants, not the main artist, and do like the toning and the patterning on her kimono. That would be done by an assistant.
You can also have like your girlfriend do the spot blacks.
My girlfriend.
That was in Backerman. Like,
okay. I thought you were like, that's what you do.
Oh, not you. No, I was saying you than the royal you. Like people, you could, if you've got a team, you can also have like your girlfriend doing all the spot blacks.
That would be great. I wouldn't mind an assistant that did all the spotted blacks and all the fucking trees and backgrounds for my comic.
It's almost like
everybody knows I want help drawing trees. Yes, I have so many fucking trees in Fiendish. I just tweeted out. I took some screenshots of all these panels with like tons of trees, and those aren't all the only panels with the ton of trees. I didn't want to spoil some other panels, but there's so many trees. This fucking comic. I'm on book 2. I can do this. Anyways, somebody please save me.
You found an effective way of silhouetting them, though. It was pretty good.
I found a shorthand, but every panel is sort of or every page is sort of a balancing act. Like some pages, well, let's just make it about me now, I guess. But
yeah, the top head on the left is amazing.
Yeah, isn't it amazing?
Yep. There is something about when manga artists, it's like in Vagabond too, when they do try and do more realistic stuff, but then it still has some of the sensibilities of the more stylized stuff, and it just looks fucking like the reality you almost want to live in.
Yeah, it's like the style and especially the eyes are still stylized, but the rendering is very realistic. I really like that. I think I'd try to do that a little bit. And I really like Boichi's work.
If I was to pick any art style that I could do, it would be that theme. But I can't do that. You'd have to have so much knowledge of anatomy and lighting and expert hatching skills to be able to nail it.
Yeah, I mean, you just need. I think here, what's harder is the action lines and how what I.
But look, the lines on his body are pointing towards his fist.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Having action lines in the background, all just overlaying the background, that's easy. But when Narwhal's back. Welcome back.
Hey, what's up?
What's up? We're gushing over Boichi's art, but drawing form along with action lines is the hardest, and especially when you're merging action lines, not the whole form is just action lines, but see his face and his coat aren't in action lines. Actually, I would have put parts of the coat, given it more action lines and the tassels and stuff. But merging parts of a body that are in motion with parts of the body that aren't is pretty hard.
I attempted to do it on that drawing of you.
So yeah, go check out Boichi. And Boichi knows how to handle man-nipples too. Yes, true. But trees, look! So what nobody cares, but with trees, some pages I can get away with sort of just silhouetting them, but it's all about balance. And if I did all silhouettes on this, I guess it could work, but you can't just keep on only drawing silhouettes. At least I don't want to, because that would just get boring and people would be able to tell I'm being lazy, so I don't want to do that. Yep, I gotta draw them.
That's me attempting it, by the way. That's like a first attempt at what you were saying.
Oh yeah, I mean it works.
It doesn't, because the direction of the lines aren't really good, but it was an attempt.
It was an attempt. Okay, fine. It sucks.
Yes. I really want to get in a back room Sunday and show my art and be like, guys, could you rip this to shit, please? Could you just be mean to it as long as it is actually relevant? Because that would be useful. That's like an instant download of really useful information if you know how to filter it.
I was trying to find images of Philip Tan's new Ronin stuff with Frank Miller, because this stuff reminds me of that, just because the detail and the blacks and whites and stuff. But I can't find a freaking copy online, and I don't know where mine is. But that stuff's really good.
Like,
Alex VRB bought that piece, by the way. Thank you, Alex.
Ooh,
hey,
nice. Thank you, Alex. John asks, while Phil is looking for the Ronin art, do most mangas stick with the same artists and writers through the entire series? Yes, they do. That's another thing I appreciate, and why I'm determined to I will always be the artist on the main Fiendish books. I contract people for the side stories, but the main books. First of all, I don't trust anybody else to do it, but also that's a big reason. But I don't like it when artists on the book change. That bothers me. It's just really jarring, and I never got why American Comics did it. I think they should. I mean, I know why they do it now. I have a theory. I think well, everybody says it's because they're afraid of image happening again, so they don't want to make like any singular artist too famous, or they want to avoid doing that so much, because then it's like, well, this artist is like the artist on this one series, and that's what they're known for. And I guess you have like people who are big artists at Marvel now, but you don't really have people that are known for like, this is the artist on this one book and they did the entire run, and that gives them a lot more of clout. So they want to keep people under their control because everything is about them and the company. It's not about the product and art.
Was it like that as much before Image? And then did Image make the corporations feel like they need to have artists be interchangeable more so they don't have power? Or like what? Phil would know more about this.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like. I mean, it's like the crescendo of what happened with Image, and then it's like, oh, these guys changed so much. We didn't want them to change how Spider-Man's webs were drawn. We didn't want them to break panel borders. We wanted it to be all John Romita Sr. stuff. And then they went against us, and we couldn't stop them because everybody was buying the crap out of these books because they were doing that. And now they're branching off. So it's like they were unplugged from the matrix, you know, and the corporation doesn't want that, of course.
I just still dream about, imagine if there was a fucking magazine where all those creative people had to compete with Spider-Man and make something that would get outvoted for Spider-Man. Like the kind of the circuitry that initiates in your brain of like, holy shit, how do I do this? Do you know what I mean? You start building the fucking puzzle in your head of how do I make something fucking awesome because of that baseline competition.
Here, I found some
working on it.
Yep.
We're gonna get there. Oh, that does look good.
And this is Frank Miller did a series in the 80s called Ronin at DC, I think, but it was his creator-owned thing. And then, so now he's continuing it with book 2, where he's just doing like layout breakdowns. And Philip Tan now it's in black and white. The original series was in color. And they're doing black and white and really kind of doing some crazy stuff with it. I mean, the art looks
all of this is making me want to do a better job.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. But killing it on this, and it's very much inspired by like the Lone Wolf and Cub thing. Back when he was doing the original series, his art style changed because he was trying to emulate Mobius. He had a lot of like ticks and dots in his artwork, very much inspired by Mobius. But this is like totally
look at that.
Wow.
Just the focus that gets pulled by having the spot black on the wings.
Yeah.
And the white behind the head.
Yeah, and so they're publishing themselves. So Frank Miller has his own, basically, imprint, press, or publisher, I guess, with Dan Didio.
Yeah, Frank Miller Presents.
Yeah, but
it really feels cool. That feels kind of mangery. That whole thing, it's making my brain confuse it with like the more Boichi vagabond style of manga stuff.
No, a lot of artists now, just because it's all co-influence. It's not a one or the other thing, man. It's just everybody, artists from all across the world influence each other, and then we take it home and do our own thing. And so, yeah, I can see, especially his faces have a manga influence. I think it looks good. someone had an interesting comment. When I was a kid, I never bothered learning the names of comic artists because they change. Exactly. That's why they keep on changing them, right? Because they want it to not matter. Yeah,
They
they
don't
don't
want it to
want
have
you
pull.
to remember. Yeah, you don't want you to like be able to remember the names and hold on to like this is the one artist that did this whole series that I really like, so I remember them, and I'll like then they can break off and do their own thing, and they would be a household name, and it's not about the company anymore. Vic for $1.99, thank you so much. This kind of looks like Dillard draws. I think that was when I was showing off Boichi's work.
Oh yeah, the more realistic stuff is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, Dillard draws stuff like Boichi?
He has a bunch of different styles he does, but he could do this like digitally painted, like pretty realistic style. It's very intense. You know, it's very versatile.
Whoa,
awesome.
Yeah.
I think that about covers it. Whatever.
Yeah, welcome back, Noel. Bye.
Nice.
Wrap it
Putting
up.
our wall by. Well, I mean, we've been going for like 2 hours and 40 minutes, and
Jack Show is started.
yeah, they've been going on, but we still got like over 100 people. Thank you guys who are sticking around. We hit 300 people today. That was amazing.
We did.
Oh wow,
That's awesome.
sweet.
It's fucking
Thank
cool.
you guys. You guys are amazing. Thank you, and thank you to everybody who's still sticking with us. I really appreciate it. If you could hit a like. I feel awkward like telling people hit like, but you should, because I want
It's really
to
good.
be promoted, and I want the channel to grow, because when we promote books and we talk about this kind of stuff, I want to spread the good word about what we're doing, and also if promo streams get more views, that's always good for other creators. And this show is awesome, so hit like and subscribe to me if you haven't yet, and also look in the description. I have links for everybody here, and I think we have the playlist saved as well. We have a creative block playlist, so this show rotates between us, and I guess we did everybody except Narwhal, so the next stream will be on Narwhal. So every Thursday, like 9:30ish maybe, it rotates between our streams, so our channels. So yeah, if you like talking shop and talking craft and just all kinds of good stuff, and putting the art first, and these cool, fun, awesome discussions like we had today by suave, articulate, erudite people. Totally, but not me.
Steady.
follow this playlist. Yeah, but not me. I'm not erudite at all. So thank you all. Okay, is there anything I missed?
Yeah, you didn't promote
next
anything.
week we're gonna look at the Dennis system applied to storytelling.
Yes.
Ooh,
the Dennis
awesome.
system from Always Sunny.
That's gonna be fun. That's gonna be fun. And I think to make that, because we usually do 2 hours, we've done 3 today, which is amazing. And like maybe the difference will get split, but like maybe we should try and devise new stories using the Dennis system.
Oh yeah, I'd be okay with that. Oh, I was working today with my buddy Jared, and we were talking about bath salts. I think bath salts are like super funny. That's all I got. I don't know. I want to name a stream Narwhal on bath salts, but not actually be on bath salts.
You should definitely do that. Oh, Ferris Omega, I'm sorry. I did almost miss your super chat. Okay, I found it. Let me read this real quick. If you want to see a great riff on Westerns, Ken Watanabe's remake of Eastwood's Unforgiven. Former shogunate loyal hitman hiding from the new Meiji government in a corrupt Hokkaido frontier town.
Whoa.
Ooh,
What's it called?
Good.
Yeah, what's it called?
Is it just called Unforgiven?
Because
I like
maybe.
Ken Watanabe. He's great.
I love the original Unforgiven. So good.
Nice. Thank you for suggesting that. I will try to check that out.
Yes.
And Wolfler for $4.99. I don't remember if I read this, but would you ever team up to create a 35-page war comic set in the Korean War?
It's very specific.
It's very specific and a little random. I mean, sure.
Eventually. Yeah.
We have so many ideas every stream. I'm sure we could collaborate on something.
Well, right now I'm at this moment I'm working on Joe Pistol, the comic.
Yeah, Joe Pistol.
Phil, you you write Joe Pistol. We can brainstorm together. You can write it. I can draw it, and then we'll get our collaboration done before mine and Narwhal's collaboration ever gets done.
Joe Pistol.
Bath salts.
Bath salts is gonna be the one.
You should make a comic called Bath Salts.
Joe Pistol on bath salts.
He's shooting up a storm.
Oh boy. Barb Rogers, thank you for the super sticker. Thank you for 550. Okay, I think I got all the super chats. Oh, Vic sent another one. Thank you so much. Vic for 499. Ooh, Irene, did you ever meet Mike Diodato or Oscar Bazal at Marvel? No, but I have met CB Cebulski, Axel Alonso, because actually I met CB Cebulski at a couple conventions because I think he came to Heroes Con. He might have came to my college too because I majored in sequential art. I went to SCAD, and Axel Alonso also came to SCAD right before he became the whatever editor-in-chief. Yeah, so I met them. It's also how I met a few other people. But yeah, but it was a long time ago because I'm old. Whoop. Yep, I think I got all of them. All right, awesome. Thank you guys again. Thank you for the super chat. Okay, don't send any more, please, because I have to wrap up, and I want to finish this page. Let's do promotions. Let's go all around. Jake, what do you want to promote?
You know what? Check out my channel. It's at HyperWizArt. But if I was to promote anything, I don't need to promote my own game, Hollow Fist, today. I'll promote Boots and Heels. Camel Moon was on Rini's channel yesterday promoting Boots and Heels. If you didn't see it, go and check out that stream. Camel seems like a great guy, and I think his book is going to be cool, and it's going to be a quality product. So I'll use my time to promote Camel. Go and check out Boots and Heels on Indiegogo.
Nice.
Awesome. Thank you for your generosity. And yes, Boots and Heels looks awesome. Everybody go check that out. Phil, Mr. Zaid.
You guys could find me, I don't know, in like 3 weeks, on the Zaid Comics channel. That's when we'll be doing the show over there. Tomorrow I'm going to be putting up the second half of that Doug Mankey interview. So that's going to be kick ass. Some really fun stuff in there. And go back to Lost Pages 3. We just went in demand, and tomorrow we're going to be doing that raffle for the skate deck giveaway. Lots of awesome stuff going on. And yeah, we'll be on with the Diaz Brothers show tomorrow at 7:30 Eastern time. There you go.
Awesome. Lieutenant Hughes says I might miss a member chat. I'm sorry, I can't find it. Oh no, I apologize. StreamYard still hasn't fixed a stupid problem where it doesn't show me member chats. Yeah. Like, it's not even a regular comment in chat that I can just star. It's like it doesn't even show it. It's so annoying. So unless someone tells me, hey, Irene, you have a member chat, because I can't I actually have the YouTube open, but I can't look 2 different directions at once. So I apologize, but thank you very much to all my members, and you guys are awesome. All right, Narwhal, Nar.
Yeah, next week is creative block on my channel, so sub my channel, and 5 days left for the main campaign of Cerberus. So check that out and take a look. I got 4 backers so far today. Let's make it 5 or 6. Let's go for it.
Nice. Oh yeah.
Do it.
Mm-hmm.
Do it. Awesome. Okay, and you can follow me, of course, on this channel, Irene Draws, and follow me on Twitter as well, and on Instagram, and everywhere else, Irene Draws. So get the channel a sub and hit like, and also check out Fiendish. We're doing super well. We just hit like 166,000. That's crazy, but oh my god,
hell
that's
yeah,
so amazing!
It just keeps going.
People are like, "Are you gonna sign your books?" I'm like, I don't know. I think we're approaching. It's definitely over 3,000 books total. Because I was just like looking at actually how many books I have to print for the first time, because I'm talking to the printer, and it's like
you should do a reverse stretch goal. Like, if you hit 2,000 copies sold, then you don't sign the book.
Yeah.
That's
No,
what
I don't want to. I want to sell more books, but I don't want to charge for signatures. So my policy was, well, I'll just sign all of them, or I don't sign any of them.
How
But
about
now
this?
I understand why you have to charge, because it's not like I think like, oh, my signature is worth money, but it's like I can't sign all of them.
What if it was a free add-on at the end? Like it was a nothing, like there's paying for it and then there's doing it on everything. I wonder if someone would want to do like a middle ground where it's like it's still an add-on, but it's like nothing. Then the person still go on.
I've seen people do that. I think Billy Tucci had on one of his campaigns had the option where when you click the book, there'd be a drop-down menu if you want to sign or not.
Yeah,
So,
you can.
That's cool.
That's a good idea. What I can do is do an add-on with no shipping, and then I can just have my fulfillment guy. Thank heavens I'm having somebody do my fulfillment. Just match up the names so I know what books to sign. I could do that, and I'll think about that. But
Chris Plays in the chat says just make it a stamp. You could get an Asian cultural, like one of those stamps they get to sign everything. Like in Japan, they have it.
Have one. I'm Taiwanese. Remember, we don't sign things. We have a little official stamp that's our legal signature. Yeah, it's very cute and adorable. But no, I think that would. I mean, I could do that, but I think people would think that's weird here. But yeah. Anyways, yes. Check that out. Do I have anything else going on this week? I don't think so. Oh my gosh. Okay, I just have to. The only thing I have going on is I will be wallowing in my dungeon and crying over pages and trees. All right, cool. I will see you guys next week. I'll be on Kings, yes, and then we'll see you for the next Creative Block show. Oh shit! I'm doing the Small Creators Roundtable next week. Yeah, so I'm not. It should be like Tuesday and Wednesday night, still around 9 or 9:30, and I'm going to gather a bunch of like smaller campaigns that are under $2,000 or $4,000, and just have them on and give everybody sort of a round table to promote. So that'll be fun. So please keep an eye out for that. And yeah, see you guys then. Bye.
Thanks for watching. See ya. Go on my channel. Subscribe to everyone's channel. Subscribe to everyone's YouTube channels. Let's see if Rini downloaded the video. Did she download the outro video? I bet she didn't.